Queens, how we all doing on this lovely Monday evening? I am sick. You can hear it in my voice. I'm sick. I'm sick of not checking in on the Queens. I hope they're doing well, even though the episode that we're listening to aired almost a year. We're a year behind. Isn't that devastating news for everybody who's joined me on this journey? By the way, just post this 100 likes on the stream, and we'll give away a channel membership. I got some fun things planned. Actually, I'm really hoping I don't forget because that would be pretty lame. But I made like credits. So if people know from Low Value Mail, I'm sure you do. Chad, badass Chad, he sent me a song that I think his song either is out or it's coming out, and then I made some credits. So everybody who supports the show will be in the credits. Someone El Jumbotron or says I already vote to skip this episode. So the title's up on the screen. This episode, and I'm fine with skipping because we got a lot of catch up to do. But the title for this episode is How to Level Up Your Pick Me Friends plus Hair of the Dog. I don't know. I know the Hair of the Dog is like a drinking reference. But I'm not sure. So anyways, we'll get into that. If you want to support the show, join or like, whatever you want. Join the Patreon, patreon.com/lowvaluemail. I was just working on a sweet new intro for the bathhouse. Actually, it's going to be like an old school phone sex commercial. I was hoping to have it done so I could show you guys, but it's not, so I can't. But Rabbit Cities, why does Tim Cass keep overlapping with Annie's show? Well, this is, he just has it every night. It's hard to not overlap with him. But again, sorry I sound like shit. But let's just get to it because we don't have time. We don't have time for this, for just me rambling on. Especially because I got my strike. So then, because I'm trying to do female dating strategy on like Sundays or Mondays. I feel like that's a good one. But then I got the strike, and so I missed the whole week. So I don't think I've done one in like almost 2 weeks. All right. No more talking. Let's just get to it. Let's go. Maybe we can skip it. That's the best case scenario. It's a skip, right? Right? All right.
Show. For today's Roast to Scrote, we have a message from Jennifer.
All right, we got a Roast to Scrote. By the way, I skipped past their like little, they have a Discord now. I was, setting the audio levels and stuff. And so the one thing that we miss is they have a Discord now.
I'd gone into the big city in my area to meet up with a guy I'd seen a few times. We were having a nice date, despite the fact that he was hungover from celebrating his 40th birthday and his friends the night before. Side note, I was 33 at the time, so for age gap context. He took me to a sushi restaurant, and afterwards we popped into a cute little bookshop, and he told me to pick anything I wanted, which I absolutely did. I felt like Belle from Beauty and the Beast, and that would make him ... crying laugh emoji.
I think the Beast, right? Yeah.
Okay, I was going to say, if you're feeling like Belle from Beauty and the Beast, we had this discussion before on another episode, but Belle's the biggest pick-me, and her relationship is an abusive one, so this does not bode well.
If you feel like Belle from...
Oh, yeah, I think we skipped the episode where they said that Beauty and the Beast was abusive. Oh,
then we went to a nice bar and had a couple of drinks and talked. It was a great time until it was time to leave the bar. As we were leaving, he ordered a double shot of whiskey and downed it. We left the bar, we were walking back to his place chatting, and he told me to keep walking and he'd catch up in a second. I was very confused.
I'm having a spidey sense.
Please tell me he had to stop to take a shit behind a dumpster. Public shit on a first date? You go, hey, sorry, I gotta go.
Tingling, is this going to be another whiskey dick story? It's always the whiskey.
I'm really worried something bad's going to happen. So he says... When he told me to keep walking and he'd catch up in a second, I was very confused. What? I said, keep going, I'll catch up, he replied. So, although confused, I was a little worried because it was dark and I was in the city. I kept walking just a bit slower when I heard a splat. What?
Ew.
I stopped, turned to look, and he was throwing up into the street.
Not far off. I mean, it's tough. If you gotta throw up, you gotta throw up. You gotta do it dignified,
I actually let out a sigh of relief because I was like, oh, thank God. Like, I thought she was gonna get mugged or something bad was gonna happen to her because she was walking alone at night. But yeah. She says, I was shocked, stunned, and just so disappointed. He then caught up with me, and since the night was obviously over, he got me an Uber to get home once we got back to his place a few minutes later. And yes, that was the last time I saw him.
I don't know why guys
That wasn't that bad. What? So he had a little too much to drink?
think it's cute to get sloppy drunk like that.
Oh, we want
Yeah.
to
It's
play
like,
this
You don't want to
game,
kiss him
huh?
all in the mouth after he's been puking his guts into the street. So
Yeah, you.
Yeah, that goes for anybody.
I just like gag because that's such a gross mental image. Yeah, I don't even know how can we roast this Scrote other than the fact that he can't even hold his whiskey. Like, what the fuck?
he's already hungover, so he's drinking
Roasted.
some more.
Hair of the dog.
What's it called?
Have you not? Do you know that phrase, hair of the dog?
No.
It's like when you're hungover and so you drink more alcohol to cure your hangover.
That sounds like what he tried to do, but does that work?
I'm just Googled the phrase actually. So, hair of the dog, which is short for hair of the dog that bit you, is a colloquial expression in the English language predominantly used to refer to alcohol that's consumed with the aim of lessening the effects of a hangover. It's apparently the
Oh,
idea
this is
that
really exciting stuff. I'm learning so
people
much
used to think
about
that you could treat rabies by putting hair from the
dating.
dog that bit you in the bite wound.
Oh.
And the fact that
Ow.
that is not true.
Yeah,
makes
that's
me
not
think
true at all.
That's not factually correct at all.
Yeah.
That makes me think that the hangover cure is probably also not true. But that's what alcoholics say to justify being a fucking alcoholic and like needing alcohol to feel like a normal person. They're like, oh, I'm just hungover. It's just a little hair of the dog.
I wouldn't be going home with this guy either if he's sloppy, drunk, and puking on shit. It's just
Yeah, guys
Yeah,
would
night's
never
over.
do that with a
Yeah.
chick.
so.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for that roasted Scrote, Jennifer.
Thank you.
If you'd like to submit your very own roasted Scrote,
Now,
go to
if
our
she did
Patreon
go home
at
with him,
patreon.com/the female dating strategy, you can also
like, do we think he could consent at that point? Could he give consent? Like, if, like, imagine she goes, yeah, I puked, and then he was a sloppy mess, but then we went and banged. Like, would we recoil? Like, if it was the other way around? Like, if he goes, yeah, she puked, and they go, whoa, don't
listen to
admit
our
that on a
weekly bonus
podcast.
content and join our Discord and chat with us, suggest some topics. Again, patreon.com.
If anybody wants to take one for the team and join the Discord, we'll greatly appreciate your service. All right.
Strategy. Let's start the show. What's up, queens? Welcome to the Female Dating Strategy Podcast, the meanest female-only podcast on the internet. I'm your host, Ro.
And I'm Savannah.
And this is Lilith. But today we're going to talk about this phenomenon that we've seen and that I've personally experienced where a lot of women who become active in FDS have been asking us, how do we, a lot of our friends often before we find FDS are pick-me's. So, how do we level up our friend group essentially? Before we started recording, I realized that me, Ro, and Savannah have very different strategies for how we level up our friend group. So I am the sort of person, I have a really hard time letting go of friends that I've been friends with for a long time. So, personally, I like to.
So this episode is
I take
breaking
the
up with
persuasion
friends?
tactic. So a lot of my friends, I will try to communicate with them in the way, or sort of, communicate FDS messages in a sort of maybe more covert way and help them in their level up journey. And a lot of the times, convincing a lot of my friends to break up with their shitty boyfriends along the way. So I like to work with what I've got.
So the discussion we had before was how much to invest in leveling up your existing friend group versus when to just cut your losses. Because I was
Wow, it's pretty fucked up, just the way they're so just referring to their friend group.
describing pretty much like most of my teens and my early 20s were like all of the most toxic situations I was in was ironically not because of men, not because of a boyfriend I was with. And it's interesting because I think people would assume that because we drag men day in and day out that I must have had like a really horrible relationship history. But like honestly, the most dangerous, most toxic situations that I've been in have been because of being dragged into drama with pick me friends. And so yeah, so what can we do to level up our pick me friends? If you have friends that you feel like are genuinely struggling, and when do you cut your losses?
Struggling at being a pick me.
And then once you cut your losses, how do you find a new friend group? Because that's the other piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, it's hard to make friends, right? So, I mean, I do make friends. I do have made new friends since finding FDS. And that's the great thing about FDS is just by simply embodying that queen energy, I find other base queens, they're just drawn to you.
Base
and so you
queens.
just find a way. You just find each other in public. I met a woman last week, actually, this exact way. But that's a whole other story.
Do tell.
But yeah, what about you, Savannah? What was your friend situation like before and after FDS?
It's pretty much stayed the same, actually. I like to keep my friendship circle quite small. So I'm quite introverted. I don't really like speaking to people generally. So I just keep my circle quite small. And I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of somebody who, when I came across it, I thought it was really mean, harsh, and quite dramatic. I'm quite sympathetic when some of my friends are slow to absorb the information. But to be fair, like majority of my friends are quite based anyway in that, they're all working really good jobs. They do have relationships, but they leave them quite quickly. So I've not really had like a pick me hellscape for like for a friendship group. Some friends I've been like, your boyfriend's a bit shit. But I think in those situations, and again, going back to my days of being with shit men, is that a lot of, women will have that awakening on their own. There isn't anything I can say to them.
I would just love to meet some of these chicks' exes. How good would that be?
That will make them think I'm going to dump him tomorrow, sort of thing. So I found that just being supportive really helps, and obviously drip feeding FDS as well. But ultimately, they will leave when they're ready to leave.
So I think this topic came up when someone in our Patreon Discord chat asked, how do I talk to a friend and support her and try to convince her to leave a shitty or even predatory or even abusive man? And I obviously gleefully rubbed my palms together and responded immediately because I love this. I live for this shit. Maybe this makes me a bad person, but I really enjoy.
I mean, if someone's legitimately being abused, then no, I don't think that makes you a bad person.
Convincing my female friends to break up with shitty men. I'm a homewrecker.
Proud of it.
I'm a homewrecker and I'm proud of it.
As you should. I mean, some homes deserve to be wrecked. Some houses should be destroyed. So yeah, own it.
It was
Oh, I'm surprised she didn't laugh at her own
already
joke,
wrecked. I
bro.
feel like you're just picking the woman out of the rubble, right?
That's true.
Yeah. I mean, if she's coming to me to talk, okay, here's the thing. A lot of women will come to me to talk about their shitty relationship. And we all know this, right? Like your friend comes to talk to you about their shitty relationship and she just wants to like vent or like complain. And then that's just a sort of like, let go of some pressure so that she can like go back to him. And yeah, I don't do that shit. Okay. So when my friends come to talk to me about their shitty relationship, that's when I'm in like reconnaissance, like information gathering mode. So I'll listen sympathetically. I'll be like, yeah, that's terrible, blah, 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 blah. And then, she'll go back to her boyfriend. And meanwhile, I'm in planning mode. Okay. So again,
diabolical.
so I replied to this person in Discord with my 4-part strategy about what I do when a woman that I know or that I'm friends with is with a shitty man and you want them to break up. So number 1 is a shitty man will often try to isolate a woman from her friend group. So whatever you do, don't let her isolate herself. Stay friends with her. And I know for some women, this might be hard, especially if, you have to put a lot of emotional labor into it. So this might not be for
I haven't
everyone.
heard emotional labor in a while.
I live for this shit, so I enjoy the process.
I love emotional labor.
It's perfectly okay also, though, to set emotional boundaries whilst not excluding somebody. So it's perfectly okay to say, let's go out and, let's go and have fun and just not talk about the relationship if you don't want to as well. You don't have to be an emotional punching bag for your friends' issues, especially if it's a recurring issue. I'm not saying like, leave your friend high and dry. But for you,
this episode's like really friend dating strategy.
For your own mental health and for your own sanity, it's also okay to set boundaries on the amounts of complaints you absorb.
Yeah, and let me reiterate that because sometimes your friends, and this is what's happened to me, is in the pursuit of trying to stay connected with your friend, they can put you in messed up, dangerous situations, right? Like I had a friend who was dating a guy who like a drug dealer at one point.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh.
This is in high school. And
oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
he was older than us. Yeah, he was older than us. He had graduated. He was maybe like in his early 20s, 21, right?
What? What's he doing with high school kids?
Well, he's a fucking loser, right?
When I was in high school, I dated a guy like this. So yeah, I mean,
Very normal. He was recently in high school.
That's what I was saying. Like I had pick-me friends who they were like, oh, I want to hang out with the older guys. Like older guys are so cool. So he has his own like apartment and everything.
Yeah.
And
and they can buy you McDonald's and fucking chicken wings and shit.
Yeah, they have a car and everything. So that can be impressive.
Wow. Yeah. He's so grown up.
Yeah, that's impressive when you're 15, 16 years old. So I had been in a couple of situations where there is like I was underage and there was just like a ton of drugs, and I'm not talking weed, like hard shit, right? And
oh my gosh,
it could have.
Oh my gosh,
that's why I waited to tell the story till we were on air. There's even more. So I've had even more situations like this, and I'm thinking about it. But I've been in situations like that where a friend, in pursuit of her boyfriend, and because I didn't want to like leave her, I went with her, and then end up in a situation like that. Which realistically, I mean, I was underage, so maybe I wouldn't have been like put in jail over a drug bust or anything like that. But it's like it was a situation where it obviously wasn't like safe for underage girls to be there because it's like him and all his like super duper massively low value
negative value
early 20s negative value friends versus us as like high schoolers, right? And early high schoolers, this is like freshman sophomore years. This is not even like junior senior year where we were like
so you're like 13 years old, 14 years old.
Well, no, more like 15, 14, 15.
Oh my gosh.
Also,
yeah,
oh my gosh.
I mean, I went with her because she didn't want to go by herself.
Oh
so
my
I went. A friend of mine ended up having sex with a couple of those guys in that friendship circle, and then they like called our types of names, and then like there were some potential consent issues because she was passed out. Staying friends with pick-me's is like you gotta set boundaries because some of them are extra like they're so thirsty for dick. They'll put everybody in really dangerous situations because they don't see the potential
What's like
harm,
the
or
male
they're
equivalent
so
of
desperate
that?
to be liked by these guys, right? Even their like low value boyfriend, that they don't see the collateral damage that they're causing themselves and then everyone around them.
Yeah, drawing boundaries is really important, and then it's up to you, the individual listener, to decide what those boundaries should be based on your risk assessment of this person. Like, so my friends have never
Are
dragged
teenagers really doing risk assessments? By the way, come on, let's get those likes
me
up,
into
please.
dangerous situations with men.
A sex and drug den? Yeah.
Yeah, they've never dragged me into a sex and drug den.
Before you can even drive yet.
Yeah. So I'm just listening to that story horrified, like, yeah, sorry, I can't relate. But like probably the most dangerous thing my friends have ever done to me was like drag me into like camping or like outdoor situations. So like most likely dangerous thing was like us getting fucked up by like a bear or like a puma or something. So
So not dangerous.
different
I mean, it wasn't going to happen.
different environment. I don't know. Yeah, so that's the other thing to remember is like you got to decide,
Oh my gosh.
is this friend actually worth it? Like, is this friend a good enough friend that you want to keep her around? Like, is her soul worth saving, basically?
I mean, but she was such a cool friend otherwise that she just had these like crazy pick-me tendencies. That was the thing.
Yeah, but that's the thing, like risk versus reward, high risk versus a reward, right? So
And sometimes
By
it's
the
like
way-
it's slow and gradual, right? Because she wasn't always like that. Like we were child.
I really wonder. She goes, she has all these pick-me tendencies. I would love to be like, and so what's she up to now? I could be wrong. Maybe we're about to find out and I'll be eating my words, but it just would be one of those funny things where like, what's she up to now? She's like, oh, she's married and she has 4 kids and has a very happy life, you know. Right.
Good friends, and then as we got to be teenagers, she just kind of went off the rails a little bit.
right, okay.
So sometimes that
Where is she
transitory
now?
period, you're starting to see who your friends are growing into.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I was a teenager, I was the dangerous person that brought so I was that person when I was a teenager. Like, I mean,
Yeah, you were, Lilith.
I don't know. We grew up in like a suburban area. It's like the worst thing we'd ever do was like go in the wilderness in the middle of the night to like drink and like do drugs, and then we'd like be like the next day hear of like a cougar reporting in the area and like, oh fuck, like we totally could have gotten mauled by a mountain lion. You know, but yeah, that's like a good old Canadian bush party. But again,
Yeah, it is.
different types of activities. What was I going to say? Oh yeah, so you have to decide if that person is worth it. Some women are more actively dangerous than others, and I'd like my friend. I don't know. My friends, they're pretty like low risk, and I think they're high reward. So I think they're worth investing in.
Yeah,
but,
fair enough.
Yeah. So that's up to you as the individual to decide how much effort you want to put into it. Is the person worth that kind of effort, and so on, right? But in general, I really live for, you know, making friends with women against and like allying ourselves against shitty men. Again, I genuinely enjoy the process. So if that's not a process that you enjoy, then this might not be worth it to you. But if you enjoy the process, then stay along for the ride.
She doesn't say process.
Yeah, so that was point one. Is a shitty men and abusers will often try to isolate his target. So that's why if I think that my friends are in a shitty relationship or I'm seeing red flags of emotional abuse and so on, I will put an extra effort into staying friends with her, because even if she's doing shit that pisses me off, or, you know, she's bringing her low value boyfriend around and it annoys me, I still, this is the other thing, is like a lot of shitty men will act annoying in like social gatherings so that you think, oh, like I don't want to
By the way, Jeff says a simp is a male pick-me. I think that's right.
fucking hang out with like Belle and her Scrote boyfriend Josh or whatever, right? So
Scrote boyfriend
Josh, for example, will
Josh.
act shitty in social gatherings because he wants to piss people off. I mean, I don't know for sure if this is what he's doing, but this is the effect it's having. It's pissing people off and being like, oh, don't invite Belle to things because she's going to bring her shitty boyfriend, and you know, we don't want that. We don't want the vibe to be killed, so don't invite her to shit, right? So I don't know. You might have to like take her to the side and be like, girl, like I love you. You know, I love spending time with you, but like your boyfriend kind of a Scrote. Like, can you not bring him to the next camping trip?
Boyfriend's
You know,
a
please, like, let's make it a
Scrote.
girls' hike
Ouch.
or just a girls' camping trip, that kind of thing, right? So yeah, that's going to be up to you to decide what you want to do. So number two strategy is, with my friends, I talk shit about men in general, and I focus on traits that her boyfriend has, but I don't attack. Here's the strategy: is I never attack her boyfriend directly. I might say like, oh, you know, I don't like his vibe, or I don't like him, or whatever, but I'll never be like, you shouldn't put up with this because your boyfriend is this, or because here's the thing: when you criticize a woman's man specifically, she sees that as a reflection or as a criticism of her and her judgment.
Obviously.
And she'll come up and she won't be receptive to it, or she'll get defensive as well. That's what I've seen as well.
And this is why when the first time a friend comes to me to vent about her shitty boyfriend, I listen carefully, I ask questions, get as much information as possible, because I'm not the sort of person to just like listen to a girl talk about her shitty boyfriend and then go home to him like over and over and over again. I'll let her have I'll give her one freebie, one free therapy session where I listen patiently.
And then she's
but after
roasting that Scrote.
I start to go into I'll start to bring up the shitty things that men have done to me in the past and talk about shitty men in general, focusing on traits that her boyfriend has. But I won't be like, oh yeah, because Josh does this. You know what I mean, right? Like, so she'll make the link in her brain that this is something that her boyfriend does and that it's bad, and that other people think that behavior is bad, but she won't feel attacked.
So I'm going to do a counter to this.
Okay.
When I've done that, a lot of times they just think you're a stuck-up bitch and you're not down. especially if she already is like desperate for the approval for that guy or his friend group, they'll basically be like, because men triangulate in this way too. They'll be like, oh, your friend's not cool, right? Or your friend is whatever, stuck up, or your friend is this or that. Again,
how dare you talk about Savannah that way?
Again, it's really tough because I feel like definitely, okay, when you're having these conversations, definitely not have it in earshot of men
of the Scrote. Yeah,
I've done that before. I've just been straight up. I had a situation like where a guy was trying to get me to do some sexual shit because my pick me ass friend was doing it, and I said something along the lines of, "No, I have dignity and self-respect." And, which I didn't even mean as like it was kind of shade to her, but it wasn't savage. Like it wasn't on like purpose to be shade by her, but I was more or less like, no bitch, I'm not like this isn't a monkey see monkey do, and this isn't some kind of like clown show where I perform for you, right? So
nah, bitch.
yeah, I'm not even getting paid for this shit. Like if I was gonna strip in front of you or like try to twerk on you or some shit, like it should be like, where's your, I should be at least getting paid for that. And so yeah, my friend heard that, and obviously her feelings were hurt. And the thing is, I just blurted it out because I wasn't really thinking, but I was kind of like, fuck this guy. I'm not your monkey, right? So the backfired on that is, yes, if you do it in front of guys, then she'll feel attacked or embarrassed, and then they'll triangulate and then try to make it seem like, oh, your friend isn't shit, right? Or your girlfriend isn't cool, and why'd you bring her, et cetera, right?
Boys, take notes.
Yeah, but it goes without saying, only do this when you're only in the company of other women, right? So me and my friends sometimes will get together, just women, and you know how women already love to complain about, I don't know, in my group.
You know how women like to complain about stuff.
Please, we love to
women be complaining
about men. It's like this cathartic thing that we need to do every now and then where we just talk shit about men. There's not even a song about it. Rachel Bloom has like, let's generalize about men. Let's generalize about men. It's like some kind of primal ritual we need now and then is the lyrics, right? So,
but okay, so even when I've had conversations with pick-me's away from men, here's the thing. Either they don't respond, or either they try to find something else to throw back in your face, or third option, they are in denial about it, right?
Yes.
They'll try to rewrite the narrative where they're really in control the whole time.
Well, sometimes what they'll do is they'll agree with you, but they have that cognitive dissonance where, let's say if they see, because I've been in situations where we'll discuss like an abusive case on the news, and she's like, my friend or the friendship was like, yeah, this is terrible, but they're with men who are doing the same thing to them. So like cognitive dissonance is also can be a massive barrier to that as well.
So I had to convince a friend not to go to a party with a celebrity that is a well-known sex offender.
Bill Cosby.
And I brought this up to her because not only did I actually personally know of women who he tried to prey on, a lot of other guys even said that this guy's dangerous, this guy's not shit, because at this point he had a really, really, really big rep for being a sexual predator. So when I talked to my friend about this, she's like, we got tickets to go to this celebrity's party. And I was like, I don't think it's safe for us to go there. And I had to tell her, like, I don't think this person's a big enough of a deal for us to go expose ourselves to this environment. Because it was one of those things where it was like a New Year's party or like a special event party. And it was like, they were like exclusive tickets to hang out with this particular celebrity. And I was like, I don't feel like we're going to go there and it's going to be good for us. Right?
Kelly.
So, and she kept saying, I'm like, you heard about this person, and both through the grapevine, but also some things that had been in the news about the celebrity. And she was like, but I still want to go, like, just to go and stunt and take pictures and stunt on Facebook or whatever. This person was willing to like really put us all in the company of a known sexual predator.
Damn, your friends suck. I'm sorry. Yeah, I think you're talking about a level of friend that is just way more toxic than the sort of people I've danced with.
Yeah, I think so. That's why I'm saying I think it's a good, important conversation, because when we talk about pick-me's, sometimes people are like, you're being too hard on pick-me's. You guys, like, they're all victims. And I'm like, no, they're not.
We have different ideas about, like, there's two different types of pick-me's. Like, there's the ones that are either, like, actively antagonistic towards women or just don't really care about women's safety and are just super easily dickmatized and really hardcore male-identified.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that I consider much more dangerous. And those are the ones I avoid. Like, I don't be friends with those ones to start with, because again, like, I was raised by narcissists, so I just get really triggered by narcissistic people or people I consider a potential threat. So those people just like sort of trigger me, so I kind of avoid those people. But the people that the pick-me's that I'm talking about are the ones that are generally like pretty well-meaning, but have their heart's in the right place, but they've just grown up in a patriarchal culture that tells them to prioritize men over women. I want to know
what the status of these pick-me's
are. And
they're
just really desperate for approval, but they still like women generally, or want to be friends with women and wouldn't want their friends to be in danger, kind of thing, you know? So
I just want to make sure we talk about both sides of this coin, because I feel like I don't know if friendship trauma gets talked about a lot. Some of these things that happen because of me following my pick-me friends, like, legit traumatized me.
I think there's also a middle ground as well. I think, you know, like you said, like Lilith, when you were talking about the types of pick-me's, there are also some in the middle who are perhaps a bit more receptive and a bit
undecided voters,
a bit more benign than the pick-me's that Rose talking about, but they can also do some stupid and dangerous shit as well. So I just think you just have to, I think for me also finding FDS was also really, really useful, because it also gave me the tools to not only vet, you know, men, but also my friends as well, vetting and assessing them. And then that would determine the amount of effort I'm willing to put in to be their emotional support.
The only caveat I would have is that maybe this is a flaw in me, but I generally give women an easier time than men. With men, I do not hesitate to walk away at the first sign of disrespect, because I know that men in general are much more capable of destruction, at least in my personal experience.
Shout out to the boys.
I find men to have a much greater ability to be destructive than women. Like,
yeah, we do.
With women, I mean, yeah, like now that I'm talking to Bro, I'm realizing like, yeah, women can be pretty fucking destructive too.
Usually over approval from men. Like, it's almost always that. And so I specifically talk about when I think of a pick-me, these are the women that I'm thinking of. Right. And I'm thinking of the women that, like, we made fun of in our bonus content that would, like, actually hook you up with a prisoner.
Yeah. Yeah.
The type of women that would drag you to go see their boyfriend in prison. But I've had friends that have really been so desperate for approval, or like they just want to be a hot girl. They want to be a hot girl. They want to be part of the in group. They want to feel like they're like
don't we all?
With all the most popular guys. They're kind of like the call her daddy girls, right? In some respects. Like,
yeah,
it's all, a lot of it's for show. It's like, you want to hang out with this athlete, this celebrity, or even if you don't have like athletes and celebrities, just like even local scrotes, meaning if you're underage, having a much older, cooler boyfriend with a car, or cool being relative.
Shout out to all the local scrotes.
Or like, my boyfriend has this and this and this and this. And because they don't vet these guys, or they're just so attracted to the clout, then their friends become like a collateral damage in their quest for popularity or attention. And also, sometimes they're the first ones to throw you under the bus for
like
male
Alex
approval.
Cooper. Sometimes they're so narcissistic or so sociopathic, they do not hesitate to throw their friend under the bus just for fame or attention from men. Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes not even close to worth it. It's just like a dangle of a sprinkle of attention from men.
Like a breadcrumb.
Yeah. And you're just like, wow, so you're just going to stab me in the front, huh? Like, over something stupid.
Yeah, so I guess you're going to have to decide for yourself if that friend, because those kinds of friends sound like just people that's the sort of friend you just want to cut off, because they're just too toxic to, like, any time you spend around them is just going to contaminate you, or just going to make your life worse. So yeah, I'm talking more about like pick-me friends that are relatively harmless.
The reason why you hang out with these girls though is because like parties tend to be lit when they do have good parties.
Yeah,
they're fun.
Right? Yeah.
But
they're just attracting too many local scrotes in your area.
Yeah. But just to summarize point 2, I find like talking shit about men in general, traits that her boyfriend has, but not attacking her boyfriend specifically to avoid getting her defensive. But it's also about delivery too. So I deliver it in like a haha funny relatable kind of way, not like a, you know, I try not to sound too like angry or too like polarizing or too divisive or whatever. You got to work on your delivery, or at least like, I don't know. The delivery matters. So when I do it,
please start doing stand-up. Please start doing stand-up
in like a haha funny relatable way. People are more receptive to that message. But yeah, and then like to deal with the women who would maybe get defensive about that anyways. That's why I employ strategy number 3, which is to just gas her up. With my friends, like my goal is that by the end of the night that they leave feeling amazing about themselves. I gas my friends up. I tell them, you're beautiful, smart, funny, you're a good person. It's very important to be honest about your compliments with other women though. I never lie to my female friends. I just describe them accurately. And I think the value in this is that often with a shitty man, a lot of the times he will like nag her, he'll put her down, he'll try to make her feel like shit about herself. And a lot of the reasons why women stay with shitty men is because they don't think they deserve any better, right? And so the point of this is to help her boost her self-esteem and help her internalize the fact that she has value, that she doesn't. It also, a lot of pick-me's think like I have to do things for people in order for them to like me or in order for me to have worth. And so I gas up my friends because I want them to know that they are inherently valuable. But again, you got to decide, like, is this person worth it to do this kind of emotional labor?
So here's my contrarian.
Okay, go ahead.
Contrarian point. So
If your friend is narcissistic, this will backfire on you.
Yeah, if your friend is narcissistic, yeah, exactly. That was gonna be my point. Because again, with like narcissistic type women, a lot of them do have cripplingly low self-esteem, but their response to that is to build themselves up to be almost godlike and all-knowing and do everything to cultivate this image that they're the shit, right?
Yeah.
So then their response sometimes to you saying you're the shit, that they're the shit, is to then like neg you because they need to be the queen bee because they're super insecure, right?
Negging works on anybody.
They can't have real friendships with you because their friendship is based on your friendship with them is based on you not making them feel bad about themselves because they feel shit about themselves all the time. But it's super easy to make someone like that feel bad about themselves if you're anywhere like near, if you're like, if they perceive you to be better than them in any conceivable way. And I've had a decent amount of frenemies this way where I didn't realize till way too late that they were in this like one-sided competition with me over something I wouldn't have even considered, to be honest, right? They might think you're smarter than them, or you went to a better school, or you're prettier than them, or something like that. And so you trying to gas them up, sometimes because they can't admit that you make them feel insecure, they'll just like take the compliment and be like, yeah, I know, or something along those lines, and then like shit on you, right? Or try to neg you back, or they won't return the compliment because they're too insecure to have a genuine reaction to that. So that hasn't always, again, I don't know if my experience is typical or not, but when it comes to certain pick-me's, it's like they live in like a dual consciousness where they both have like insanely low self-esteem, but also want to project the image that they don't, right? So you
make it till you make it
just sort of makes them feel like they're being validated in their behavior in that moment, right? Because they'll take that as like confirmation that they're better than you or something like that, right?
Again, I get triggered by narcissistic people. So this woman that you're describing,
this is like amalgamation of multiple friendships I've had, unfortunately, and this is where I'm saying
I think because I think you mentioned it earlier.
I think it's you.
Like resting nice face.
Yeah, that's really a problem.
I think narcissistic people might just be drawn to people
that
like
would have
that.
been quite the breakthrough.
I'm mostly cool with people unless I think they're bullshitting me, or unless I think that they're trying to like harm someone, or if they're doing something I feel like is more like super morally reprehensible. I'm mostly cool with people. Like I don't really go out of my way to like make them feel bad or anything, but then people start to think, oh, because you don't necessarily show your teeth right away, that you're harmless.
Yeah, so I don't know if like you've just met an extraordinary number of narcissistic women over the course of your life, but like these sorts of women, I get turned off by them just because I don't know, like I find I tend to fight with them a lot. Like they just become my instant enemy.
It's funny because dudes love these chicks.
Like
probably.
A domineering like alpha woman type.
Get the chat to work.
So yeah, they see it as a competition, but I just avoid these types of women. I don't know, the gassing up your friends technique. I use that mainly on my friends who are generally good people and their heart's in the right place, but they just have really low self-esteem. And for them, the gassing them up isn't like a source of supply. It's just like they've been beaten down so much over
suicide prevention.
By so many different people that finally talking to someone who
can't get the stupid chat working. I don't know why.
Sees their qualities and reminds them about them, it feels good and it feels validating, and so that's why they and that makes them want to spend more time with me. And the reason for why I do this is because abusers will or abusers or just shitty men in general will. Even like low effort men, I find that the line between a low effort man and an emotionally abusive man is very fine, because a lot of low effort men will use emotional abuse as a way of keeping a girlfriend around without having to put.
I mean, but also as if you're a guy, you don't want to be too high effort, because then that kind of sets the precedent that you're going to be that kind of effort all the time. And generally women, like, it's a tough one. It's a delicate balance.
Put in any effort, because that's ultimately what I find abusive men. The reason why they're abusive is because they don't want to put in the effort of actually being a good person that people are attracted to and want to be around. So they'll use coercion, insults, manipulation, and all kinds of shitty tactics to get people to stick around or to decimate a woman's self-worth so she thinks she can't do any better.
So this is also why some of my friendships turned toxic, because their Scrote boyfriend was triangulating my pick-me friend against me. I don't know if you guys ever did this, if you've ever bought like a similar outfit to your best friend. And so there was a time where me and my friend wore the same outfit, and then her Scrote boyfriend was like, oh, your girlfriend looks, or your friend looks better in it than you, right? Saying shit like that. So be careful, because sometimes these Scrote boyfriends that they're with,
it's
either
weird.
In front of you or
I get, like, it's because I see that and go like, that guy's just a fucking asshole. That's just an asshole thing. But then, what is it? If it's your partner saying it to you, then it's abuse.
Behind the scenes, they're triangulating that woman against you, and that's why sometimes she's like irrationally hostile towards you.
That's actually a very good point, because this actually does follow in my experience as well. That checks out, because after this has happened a few times where after like a night together or night out, a night in or a night out with my girlfriends, they'll go home and they're feeling really awesome. And if they go home to a really shitty man, he will try to like take her down a peg or like neg her, or they notice that, I don't like that Lilith girl. Like, she's putting ideas in your head, right? And so that's
she is
to triangulate
Lilith
me against her.
Totally putting
ideas. The purpose
ideas
of the gassing her
heads.
up. The purpose of the gassing her up is that so that she feels better with me than when she feels with her boyfriend, because people often respond not so much to the actual words that you are saying, but they'll respond to the way that you make them feel. And
True.
so if you're talking to one of
33 more likes. Come on, let's get there.
your female friends and she
Free
feels like shit every
membership.
time she spends time with her boyfriend, but you treat her really well and you talk about all the qualities about her that you love, and you make her feel like she's on top of the world, like she's powerful, like she could, conquer anything. She's going to start to think like, I really enjoy spending time with my friend. I don't enjoy spending time with my shitty boyfriend. My shitty boyfriend's now trying to talk shit about my friend who makes me feel good. It makes her a lot less vulnerable to that kind of triangulation, or it makes it a little bit easier to see through it.
Yeah, assuming she's not a massive pick-me that just gets jealous, right?
Yeah.
That just falls right into the trap. And again, toxic friendships that I've had, that's going on behind closed doors. You may not know that that's what's going on. And then even your attempts to be like, let's go out, let's feel good, let's go somewhere. And
Isn't really being a pick-me just that you're making a bit of like a concession in the whole struggle of the sexes? Like, I can't help but wonder, are all these pick-me's like married with kids and these chicks are single with a podcast?
just meet new guys. They look at it like you're trying to be better than them. You know what I'm saying? Like, or you're trying to be the boss or something. Liz is giving really, really great advice. I'm just giving like the caveats to her advice, meaning like some of these chicks are truly unsalvageable, and you attempting to do these tactics will sometimes end up backfiring. And I can tell you, a friendship breakup is actually really difficult, right? It can be as painful as a regular relationship breakup. So
yeah, for sure.
There's times where I stayed in these friendship, trying these tactics and some of the different things that Lilith said. And then eventually there was like some massive blow up. And in hindsight, I'm like, all the red flags were there. All the times where I should have walked away were there, and I should have walked away. And then when I did finally walk away, it was really, really, really painful. When they're not being like pick-me's, like they can be cool in other respects, and so you're emotionally invested in each other in that kind of way. And then once you don't have that friend anymore, it can be really hard. So my caveat to everything that Liz is saying is just like really, really evaluate whether that one is worth doing all this for before like you're so emotionally invested that it's going to be painful to leave that friendship, or she legit puts you in dangerous situations for which you could actually be actually harmed.
Yeah, so as we discussed at the beginning of this episode, you have to decide first of all if this friend is worth saving, if she's adding value to your life, if she's a generally good person and a good friend. This advice of gassing her up and so on is under the assumption that this person is worth saving, that she's not a narcissist, that she is generally well-meaning and a good friend, but that she just has low self-esteem and has gotten caught up in the manipulation of a shitty man. So that is the context within this advice.
Yeah, true.
If you're listening to this and thinking, I tried that and that's not going to work for me, or that didn't work on me, it could be that the conditions in which you're applying this advice are not the same. So you have to make sure that you are working with someone who's already generally good-natured, is already like pretty good friend.
Yeah, I'm telling you when to hit the parachute and save yourself. Like, just jump off this, jump away from this relationship.
It's important to know when to do that as well.
Yeah. So number 4 of my 4-part strategy for how to get your girl to leave a shitty man is, and this is the one where I do exaggerate a bit. I said don't lie when you're talking about complimenting your girl, but the number number 3 is true, but number 4, this is where I never straight up lie, but I do exaggerate a little bit. Brag about all the nice things that men do for me, and the purpose of this is to help her realize that a better life is possible, and that she doesn't have to put up with bad treatment because, quote, all men are like that.
Mm-hmm.
We've all heard the like, oh, all men watch porn, oh, all men do this, all men do that, and so a lot of women, even though, here's the thing, like I see this a lot on like Radfem Twitter, where all men are like this, blah blah. And even if it is true that every single man on this planet is a piece of shit, I don't think that narrative is as helpful, because it makes it way too easy for women to internalize that and go, oh well, all men are like that. If I want a relationship, then I have to lower my standards, or I have to put up with it, and so on, right? And so I find that it's the same thing when I'm talking to a guy and I talk about, even if I've been abused or treated badly by men before, I never tell a man that I'm currently dating that men in the past have treated me badly, because that communicates that I'm used to being treated badly, and that he can afford to do that. Sure, but a guy from a particular culture was like asking me if I'd ever dated guys from that culture before. And I said, yes, in fact, I love how men from this culture, they know how to treat a lady. They've always treated me like a princess. And I could see in this guy's head that the wheels were already turning. And in his mind, I knew that I could see that competitiveness in his eyes, right? Like men are very competitiveness. And so men are very competitive. So if you tell him that you've been treated really well by guys in the past, they will think like, oh, first of all, that's what she's accustomed to. So I have to treat her at least as good as that if I want to maintain her interest. Yeah, that's pretty much what, and then it'll make them more competitive. They want to be better than the other guys. So if anything, they'll try to treat you better. So, but then, again, just my personal experience. But a similar thing happens when you're talking to women. I find I'm thinking like pre-FDS. When me and my friends would commiserate about all the shitty things that men did to us, and then
does anybody even remember what life was like pre-FDS? I don't.
Just not do anything about it and just go back to our shitty boyfriends at the end of the night. It almost like perpetuates this idea that like as a woman, it's kind of your job to just put up with shit behavior from men and just suck it up and just put up with it and then just deal with it, right? Is when you talk about the nice things that men have done for you and you've flattered your friends sufficiently, she will start to think like, oh, you know, this person says I'm amazing. You know, I like my friend. She's amazing. These are all the amazing things that men have done for her. Therefore, like, I deserve to be treated well, or that it's possible to be treated well by men. So if once you plant that idea in her head and she's with a shitty man who treats her worse, she's going to be like, why the fuck am I with this Scrote? Like, why would I do that when I can do better, kind of thing. The point of the number 4 is to plant the idea in her mind that she can and deserves to have better.
So this works.
I mean, you can always do incrementally better if you're willing to do the work, but nobody's jumping multiple grades, really.
She doesn't feel competitive with you, or if she doesn't feel like you're shading her, because I've unintentionally shaded friends when they were bragging about something that I thought was like some pick-me shit. Meaning a guy did this for...
Is this like the worst thing to them? Is just a friend who's a pick-me?
And I was
worse?
like, well, yeah, they should. And to be fair, I've been on the other side of that with a friend where you should have friends actually maybe on both sides, where like one friend that's slightly more pick-me than you and another friend that's more bossed. I've been on the other side too, where I had a friend that was more...
for balance.
Yeah, the balance. That was slightly more boss than I, and I was like happy about something that a boyfriend did, and then she was like, well, yeah, that should happen. I felt like kind of bad that I accepted less, but then I like kind of saw the wisdom of it, and then I just moved on. If you're dealing with a person who's highly insecure or still like is desperate for male approval, their reaction to that is going to feel competitive, or like they want to attack you or bring you down a peg.
Yeah, again, don't be friends with toxic people, right? So if your friend responds to
toxic people,
that's
are
actually
the
maybe
best.
a good vetting strategy for friends. Like if you talk about something positive that a man did for you, does she go, oh, that's so nice of him, I'm so happy for you? Then she's probably a decent person. I mean, maybe a really, really fucking toxic person would say that, but then inside they're like, fuck this bitch, I'm gonna destroy you.
Another thing that can be quite useful is to focus on how it's making her feel, and also talk about the pros of just being single. Just, you know, compare, okay, if you didn't have this guy, just how different would your life be? You wouldn't be stressing. You'd probably have more money. You could be doing, you know, what you want to do, because ultimately it isn't just about there are other men who can treat you better. Whilst that...
Who's talking right now here? Savannah or the friend?
That's true, but our, you know, default relationship status is generally single unless we're out there with somebody, and it's still better to be single than to be with a Scrote as well.
See, that's the lesson that I don't know that you can teach.
Better to be single than to be with a Scrote.
Pick-me's. That's the thing I'm trying to get at.
And that's why that's not part of my advice, because that shit doesn't work on pick-me's. I'm sorry.
Voice. So to kind of go back to my earlier story, that friend sees the fact that all these guys, even though they really drag the shit out of her behind closed door, all these guys, at least they're hanging out with her, is evidence that she's successful and she knows what she's talking about, right? Because you can keep a harem of low-value men around you fairly easily.
But then what I'm saying, though, is to challenge the idea that, you know, getting, you know, low-value attention is better than... is, you know, first of all, that it's actually valuable, and secondly,
it has value in the word. The term has value in it.
Single. It's about challenging the fundamental beliefs. It's more difficult to do. I appreciate that. But,
we're on 1 1/4 speed, everybody.
But ultimately, if women don't learn this lesson, this whole thing is futile. This is why you see women continuously getting into bad relationships. They'll leave one Scrote and everyone has a party, then they're back with another one. I think for me, you know, when FDS began to make the most sense and when I started having the most success with the strategies, it was essentially when I internalized the fact that being single is better than being with most men.
So with that,
ouch. That's so sad. That's so sad. Let's just play that. I don't know. Is it because I'm sick? I'm a little more.
You see women continuously getting into bad relationships. They'll leave one Scrote and everyone has a party, then they're back with another one. I think for me, you know, when FDS began to make the most sense and when I started having the most success with the strategies, it was essentially when I internalized the fact that being single is better than being with most men.
So with...
Ouch. Everybody hurts. Savannah, it's not your fault, baby.
I was single where she always had a boyfriend and I was single for most of that time. But when I got a boyfriend, he was much higher value in the way that he spoke and treated me.
Exactly.
But this is why, again, toxic friend, she ramped up the bullshit. And like, she's the type of girl, she needs attention. She would try to like be overly flirtatious, try to hang all over my boyfriend and stuff like that because she needs attention.
Okay, this friend sounds like a dick. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no.
Why don't we roast her?
Yeah, this friend is a lost cause, girl.
She sounds like a dick.
But this is what I'm saying is like with pick-me's is like even if you show them like, oh, guys can treat you better than this. She's crazy jealous because I have one boyfriend who treats me better than all these like.
Oh, you have a boyfriend?
She's triangulating. It was so fucked. What's so fucked
Or
about
was
it in
this in the
hindsight now
past?
is because, again, I didn't really put two and two together, but like she would fuck these guys, and then like literally we'd all go out some other way. We go out to like the club or something like that, and then she's off like trying to pretend like she's a socialite, and I'm talking to these dudes, and they're dragging the shit out of her like while I'm sitting next to her, like when she's not in earshot. Like the first thing they do
Like
is
they
like
hate her even though they're fucking her. Yeah.
Yes. She was fucking guys who actively hated and disrespected her. And so then she sees like them talking to me, and she can see that they respect me. She sees that they respect me, even if at least enough to be honest to me. And she's mad, right? Because these are her men, and these
I mean,
are
it
like,
could also be the Scrotes triangulating using you.
it could be that too. It's probably a little bit of both, to be honest. But some of it is like because she's so desperate all the time that I think that like they realize like, oh, I can pretty much do anything, and she's gonna do some pick me shit and then spin it to make it seem like she's like in control. So my whole thing is like, when you do get a boyfriend, if you try to show him better, they may not like respond positively.
We're talking about past boyfriends, like not even men that you're currently with, but talking about nice things that men have done in the past.
Yeah.
But this is all under the assumption that this person is a generally good person. Their heart is in the right place. They're not a toxic person.
Yeah.
Because this, again, all of this advice that I'm saying is only to be used in the context of a friend who you like, who you don't want to give up on, but she has a few little pick-me
And who's worth saving, yeah.
Some women, that kind of effort is not worth it. Personally, like I've not experienced that many.
Again,
women
when they
trying to
say
compete
worth
with-
saving, oftentimes they're saying worth saving from what? A life of children and marriage? I guess divorce eventually, maybe.
me, I have like from my standpoint, I find that when you lead by example, by being the sort of women that they want to be the change you want to see in the world, right? And if women see you being successful, and those women are generally good people, like
Who said that? Obama?
obviously toxic women, they see you being successful, they're going to try to destroy you. But a woman who's generally a good person, they're going to see someone being successful, and they're going to be like, okay, I want to be like you. How do I be like you? They're going to start unconsciously even adopting some of your mannerisms or your attitudes, right? I've learned over the course of my life about how to lead, I mean, as part of my job, literally, and how to lead by example more specifically. And a big part of my career, my job, is basically about, you know, how to influence others through sales or persuasion or and so on, right? So what I'm talking about in this episode are soft power skills for how can you lead your girl gang into a newer, better bosser. You know, how can you get your pick me friends who are generally good people? How do you help them level up and become boss bitches who don't take any shit from men, who have higher standards and better boundaries? This 4-part strategy, and also just how to get them to leave a shitty man. Because what Savannah was saying about the happiness of being
Sounds like this chick's gonna be selling a course pretty
single,
soon.
I think that for a woman who's currently in a relationship, a lot of women who don't want to leave their shitty man, it's because they're afraid of being single. And so I think you got to meet women where they're at almost. And when you're talking to, again, an appeal, when you're trying to persuade someone, you have to appeal to the things that are important to them. So if you're talking to a pick me friend who's afraid of leaving her boyfriend because she doesn't want to be single, talking about how great it is to be single is just going to fall on deaf ears. I think talking about how, you know, men have treated me really well in the past, and this is how I behave in order to, you know, achieve that sort of treatment. I find that sort of the promise of a better relationship is almost more incentivizing than just the idea that being single is better than being with a low value man. And then once they break up, that's when you can go on a bunch of adventures together as girls. And then she will learn through experience the beauty of being single without a shitty scrote.
This pretty manipulative.
So that's a message that comes later after they've broken up.
Yeah.
Thinking of, you know, the pick me in the relationship who values being in a relationship above all else, right? If you're saying there's better men out there, even if
Okay, look, there's always going to be someone better out there. Like just by the statistics, you know, everybody's just, you know, you get tired of looking or you find someone that you really connect with. But just probability wise, you could say, yeah, there's probably someone still better than this. But if you keep just doing that game, then you're just going to die
she
alone.
leaves that relationship, and this is from personal
Like these chicks.
experience, they don't spend any time being single. They're back out there looking for someone else. And this is how you get women who are just in serial relationships. And this is why I sort of say, I think you can do both. You can say there are better men out there, but you can also say it's better being single than being in a shitty relationship. I think you can give both messages at once. Like what I'm trying to be like cautious of is just essentially inadvertently encouraging, you know, women just to keep focusing on, you know, getting into relationships, you know, finding a good man. Because whilst that is, you know, I'm not saying women shouldn't look for relationships, but, you know, if you've been in a bad relationship already, you should spend a lot of time single, in my opinion, because you need to recalibrate your standards and boundaries. Because the reason why they're in that bad relationship is because their standards and boundaries are way off, or if not non-existent.
Yeah.
And so even if they come out of that relationship, there's absolutely no guarantee they won't get into another shitty one because they don't have the correct framework, or they may not recognize, you know, what a good relationship actually looks like. And also, if we're talking about the way that a man, that can treat. So let's say, for example, if you say to, I'm not saying you say this, but just an example, my boyfriend pays for dates. If they're then out there dating, they then might start getting excited if a man pays for dates, if that makes sense, even though he may not be a good person. So what I'm saying is...
Who does not get excited when a man pays for dates?
I think the messaging needs to be applied with caution. And again, it's also about the analysis of your friend. If she's been in a string of bad relationships, I just don't think it's a good idea to keep pushing the idea that there are better men out there, at least until she's been single for some time and has been able to reflect on that. But that's just a caveat to that.
And that's the criticism of the subreddit, right? Because a lot of times we talk about how there's women that come on the subreddit and they're like, they're prematurely assigning high value to their new man because he's just slightly better.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Or has some of the markers of being like better than, in a lot of respects, than the guy they dated before, but still doesn't mean he's high value, right? If you went from, a guy who didn't have a place, who never paid for dates, who was just generally like a couch creature, to a man who has a job and pays for dates, and they're like, they're automatically like, oh, he's high value, and they jump the gun because they look at it like, oh, I've leveled up and I'm different, but they haven't actually fixed those internal self-esteem issues.
Or they haven't fixed their vetting.
Yeah, the vetting, but also the self-esteem. Because then what happens is, like, even if you got a guy that has better, a better package, like he can still be low value and still be toxic to you in the same way, even if he's not like a flat out bum like your previous boyfriend.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
that's true.
So 2 things about that. One, about Savannah's point about the importance of showing that the single life can be great.
6 more likes.
That is important, definitely. All I'm saying, and I do convey that message, it's just not it's not my main strategy. That's something I'll talk about on the side, like if I'm single and talking about, cool shit I'm doing and stuff. And a lot of the times when I just straight up say, it is better to be single than to be with a low value or shitty man, a lot of women will just agree with that statement on its face because it's just so obvious. But what I'm talking about are the women who are, like you said, are in relationships. They value their relationships a lot. They're afraid of being single. Talking about how being single isn't so scary or being single is great and so on. It just is not a good selling point. It's just not very persuasive. So whereas talking about, oh, there are other men that can treat you better, that is more incentivizing to at least get her to break up with her shitty man. Because then she's thinking, okay, once I break up with this shitty guy, then I'm available to find all these other better guys. But it's almost like certain things women can't learn except from experience. You know how like sometimes you'll be talking to a pick me and sometimes they gotta go through a ton of heartbreak or a lot of shit before they finally like get the message, So things about like the being single is fun. I feel like it's more effective when they learn that from experience, by actually having a good time as a single person. And then number 2, I want to circle back to what Rose said about, talking about nice things that men have done for me, and she gets competitive. I think in this context, delivery is also very important. So, for example, I would not say it in the context of like, let's say her boyfriend's doing something shitty. I wouldn't be like, oh yeah, well, my man did this for me kind of thing. Or like, oh, my ex did this for me kind of thing, right? So I would not bring it up in the context of her talking about her shitty man, because that's going to very directly convey a more competitive thing. I would bring it up in another context or just sort of even passing in conversation. And again, like, saying it in a way like, oh, this is something amazing that a guy did for me, like, that's how men should be. Like, girl, like, you're so amazing, you deserve to be treated that way, kind of thing, right? Amazing. In a way that makes her feel uplifted and not like, oh, I'm stupid or I'm a piece of shit for tolerating this from my man. You know what I mean?
There's women to me that are pick-me's like out of ignorance, and then there's like women that make a choice to be a pick-me in some respects. Because that's another criticism too. There's women, as soon as they get a boyfriend, they abandon other friends, et cetera, et cetera. So if you have a woman who's not the type to do that, who's otherwise like still socially plugged in and connected, and is not like, as soon as I get a boyfriend, I'm abandoning everybody else.
Shout out to the Goob, just got a channel membership. Thank you for the likes.
And these types of things tend to work because you're staying connected. You're keeping that network. She at least has like a balanced enough understanding of her life to maintain her friendships in addition to her boyfriend. But I think when you're dealing with my boyfriend is my everything, I'm cutting off all these like other women as soon as I get a man.
Yeah, those are the kind of women who need to learn from bitter experience, unfortunately. Okay, so my mom always used to say this thing to me. She says, smart people learn from their own experiences, smarter people learn from other people's experiences, and stupid people never learn at all. And so for the people who never learn, yeah, you just got to give up on them. Yeah. Like they're hopeless. You got to just cut them off.
I just want to put boundaries on it the same way we do with men, right? Because we talk about like these behaviors and extremes, and that like when you have a conversation and when to cut your losses.
So here's another red flag, actually. This is another red flag that I like to keep in mind, which is that beware of like one-sided friendships. So obviously, they're having former friends that I've now cut off where with this strategy, I'm sure there's going to be women with their spidey senses tingling, like, oh, I've done this for friends, and they'll happily use me for my emotional labor. But then when I need something, they are like bored or
nothing like a good woman's emotional labor.
Interested, or don't reciprocate.
They know how to do it.
So that's another thing to be mindful of with this strategy, is that if you are talking to a friend and it's a very one-sided relationship where you're the one gassing her up and telling her she's amazing and listening to her talk about her shitty boyfriend and doing tons of emotional labor for her, but she doesn't do the same for you, that person is not a friend. That person is a user. And that's why you shouldn't be friends with people like that.
Oh,
so
dump that bitch.
Only do this sort of work for friends where, again, I have a hard time letting go of friendships that I've had for a long time where we've been through a lot together. I've helped her with her problems. She's helped me with my problems. Those kinds of friendships are the ones that I think are sticking through post FDS level up. A lot of those types of women can be saved, and I do want to save them. So
I mean, it's forced emotional labor is basically you're being enslaved by your friends, so you should not tolerate.
And honestly, I enjoy making them break up with their shitty boyfriends. That's just, I get a kick out of it.
Yeah, and I would also say if they start to really level up, it could change the dynamic of your friendship, and just be aware of that. I have had like friends I've had for a long time, and if I've started to level up in a certain way, the dynamic changes.
Yeah, I had this a lot when I lost a lot of weight, actually.
Yeah, so just understand, once your friend starts to level up, they may, once they level up, want to leave the friendship, right? And it may not even be entirely about you. They might just feel more confident to explore different things, right? So that's the other thing about this kind of work, is be prepared for it perhaps to be a benevolent type of sacrifice, because they might level up, start getting confidence, and then be like, I want to explore this part of my life.
We just learned something about Lilith. Lilith lost a lot of weight. Good for you, Lilith.
Or something different. So I still think it's absolutely worth doing if it's a good person.
I have one friend who leveled up, and then she kind of left for a bit, and then we've since rekindled our friendship a bit. So sometimes even with those people, they might go off travel, spend a year abroad or something, just sort of keep in touch with them, and they might come back, and then you can continue the relationship. But again, toxic people, cut them off. Non-toxic people who just are making mistakes, I think it's a very worthwhile, benevolent thing to help guide them into the right direction, so that you can all live your best lives together.
Be prepared to lose them either way. So understand that this is a greater good type of exercise.
Yeah, I do it for the greater good. Okay, that's the thing. Like, I just, again, back to the emotional labor thing. If this is something that's very taxing for you and you don't enjoy doing it, then don't.
Yeah.
I just have the disposition where I just really get off on, I love when I just gas up my friends and they feel like an alpha bitch, and then they go home to their shitty boyfriend and start talking about, like, well, Lilith said this about her man. Like, why can't you do the same? Like, that kind of thing. Like, I just really enjoy ruining shitty relationships like that. And I also really enjoy helping women boss up. So,
well, little do you know that we're reversing the whole thing with this show.
Nothing makes me happier in life. And I do that partially because it makes me happy, and it's worked out a few times. So I'm like, hell yeah, this works. Like, I'm going to keep doing it. And I don't have 100% success, right? I still have a couple friends left who are still with their Scrote boyfriends, but I'm here to play the long game. Okay. Like, I'm
long
patient.
game. This is absolutely a worthwhile thing to do for like the overall betterment of our society. The more women that set good boundaries and have a positive like vision for their future, a positive understanding of relationships, or some understanding of relationships that's more likely to lead to positive, happy results, the better we all are.
So just to summarize, Lilith's 4-part strategy for how to make your bestie leave her shitty Scrote boyfriend is: 1, make or stay close friends with her so that she's not isolated. 2, talk shit about men in general, specifically traits that her boyfriend has.
All right, everybody, don't forget to talk shit about men in general.
But don't roast her boyfriend specifically. Otherwise, she will feel like she's being personally attacked. This helps her get better at identifying problematic male behavior, but in a haha funny way. 3, gas her up, tell her she's beautiful, smart, funny, a good person, that she...
That's all women, though.
...deserves the best things in life. Be genuine, so that's something when she looks in the mirror, she can repeat back to herself and know that it's true. And this boosts her self-esteem. It helps her internalize the fact that she has value.
And I think my self-esteem's a little higher right now. I'm not going to lie.
Brag of all of the nice things that men do for you. This helps her realize that a better life is possible, and that she doesn't have to put up with bad treatment because, quote, all men are like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But again, I think that the goal of all of this is to, raise consciousness among women.
No, the goal is to die single.
And, help women forge greater bonds with each other instead of men, and to level up your standards and your boundaries and learn that you don't have to put up with shit from men, because your girl gang will meet your emotional needs where your man will.
Yeah, you will. So, I feel like a fucking boss bitch right now after listening to this.
That's our show. Please check out our Patreon,
patreon.com/female
strategy for weekly bonus content.
All right, that's been episode 33. We made it through to episode 33. Someone was asking about the chat. I tried to get the chat working. I don't know what's going on with it. I think I might have to shut down my thing, which I can't do. So no chat this episode. I'll make sure to have it figured out for the next time. All right, that was episode 33. Right here is now episode 34 of the Female Dating Strategy podcast, building your girl gang plus a triple Scrote stack. What could this possibly mean by a triple Scrote stack? I don't know. But that was, someone said that was painful, Luke. That was painful, and there's even more pain coming, and I'm a little sick. So this is really punishing me. I'm not going to lie. If we get to 150 likes on the stream, I'll give away another membership to the Scrotes on YouTube. That gets you access to the Low Value Mail After Show. All the fun emojis that we have going on here. Al Bundy, King of England, Fauci, the balls, all that stuff. So let's get those likes up, and then we'll get there. All right, episode 34 from 1 year ago. So we're a year behind. Good fucking God. That's not good. Building your girl gang, plus the triple Scrotes, Jack. Let's go.
I'd just like to tell you about some recent changes we've made to our Patreon.
No.
We've got a triple whammy for our Roast a Scrote.
Triple stack Roast a Scrote today from Jay, and she wants to validate everything I felt for years.
What
I absolutely
happened?
love you and the
We got some skippage here.
saying
Hold on.
Moderators and podcast hosts. Thanks for listening, Queens, and on to the show.
Queens.
And today we've got a triple whammy for our Roast a Scrote.
triple stack Roast a Scrote today
What?
from Jay, and she wants to start by saying, so I just wanted to start out by saying I'm so thankful for what you guys do. I've always had FDS aligned values and just felt so alone before I found the sub, that thanks to a Scrote complaint post on another sub. #DieMad. This was a few years ago now, and I've been going back ever since. And I really don't know what I would have done without you guys. You've helped me to stand firm in my boundaries and completely validated everything I felt for years. I absolutely love you and the entire community, and I'm just so glad to see it continue to grow and help other women. Aw, thank you, Jay. So,
Thanks,
on
Jay.
to the actual roasting. Scrote number 1. I met Chad when I was around 19 and he
Chad.
was 25.
Oh, no.
His name is Chad?
Alrighty, we're done.
Okay. Just roasting you for having the name Chad.
Chad really liked to smoke weed and he was into snowboarding.
Of course he did.
Of course he did. That is like... And let me guess, was he a white guy named Chad?
Of course he did.
And he was also really great with his finances. Stingy bastard. For example, he liked going 50-50, and he once went several weeks without deodorant because he wanted to save money.
And he snowboards? Ew.
What a dirty little scrote.
Ew.
What a dirty little Scrooge.
Just deodorant in the US? Like, how much is it, like, bro?
Like $5 per thing?
99 cents.
Really?
I mean, it depends on the quality. But you can definitely find like dollar store deodorant.
So he's got the money to smoke weed, but he hasn't got the money to get deodorant.
Correct.
This
It's
just
called
doesn't compute.
prioritizing.
Yeah, if you can't afford deodorant, you shouldn't be smoking weed.
So it continues, and I remained with Chad for nearly 4 years, I know, until the week before my final undergraduate exams, when he decided to come clean about some cheating.
Oh no.
What a piece of shit. He was pretty resentful of my success, and I'm pretty sure he timed it that way just to throw me off.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. I was like, that seems like a very convenient time.
Why do they do that?
It seems like a very conveniently inconvenient time to announce that.
It ended up being my best semester regardless, so suck it, Chad.
Good.
Suck it, Chad.
So I just wanted to know, I just wanted you guys to know, I looked up how much a 3-pack of deodorant costs on Walmart, and it's $5 for 3.
Yeah, I guess $5. The price
Yeah.
is right. I won.
For 3 of them. Not just one, for 3.
For 3 of them, yeah. Cool.
Anyways, I promptly dumped him and blocked him everywhere, which apparently he was not expecting, as Chad was very delusional. So he made new accounts across multiple different platforms to message me, and at one point he even used a new number to say he had written me a song. But I refused to
Chad
meet
wrote
him
a
or answer his
song.
video call. So what I ended up getting was a giant run-on sentence with about 500 words worth of lyrics before I blocked him again.
I had a guy write me a poem one time, and I told it was really bad. And I was like, nothing makes my pussy drier than bad poetry. The guy fucking cried. Anyways, yeah.
And then we
I mean, again, you're dating dudes that'll cry that easily.
all laughed together.
But I'm a bad person, so anyways.
Roasted.
I live out making guys cry.
I'm a man-eater. I'm proud of it.
About a year ago, Chad tried contacting me again with a new email he had made. I couldn't believe it, but I ignored it for a few days until I decided to reply. As an aside, the band Rage Against the Machine was meant to play near my hometown the next year, but floor tickets were super expensive, around $400 each. That being said, they were less expensive than Chad was dumb. I think I can see where this is going.
I mean, that doesn't seem like it's hard, to be fair. So,
anyways, I basically just played along with what he was saying. I sprinkled in like 60 heart emojis and then suggested that we go to this concert together to rekindle our relationship. And the dumbass bought it. I used my credit card to make sure they were sent to my email and had him e-transfer me $800. And then I blocked him and sent my girlfriend a message saying we'd be going to Rage. # boy bye. Queen shit.
Is that legal?
Sorry, I love that. I absolutely love that.
I'm not mad whatsoever.
Yeah, a lot of people are probably going to be like, oh my God, that's a scam. That's grift. That's like, oh my God, you ripped him off. I'm like, you know what? Men deserve to be scammed. Men deserve to be robbed.
But the thing is, this is a payment for harassment. She told him to leave her alone. He didn't listen. So
yeah, I call it the patriarchy tax.
The asshole tax.
The asshole tax. Yeah,
the asshole tax.
First of all, he cheated. Then he waited to tell her at a particularly important time in her life to devastate her. And then when she broke up with him, he harassed her.
Yeah, he had it coming. He was asking for it. If he didn't,
He is a bit of a Chad, dare I say?
Yeah, and he shouldn't have been a dickhead about it.
So on to Scrote number 2 with Jay. So she says, so shortly after dumping Chad, I ended up with rebound called Justin because he was just as douchey as Chad.
I was going to talk to my friend Justin. Yeah. I'm Chad. Yeah.
This is the lowest form of comedy that exists, is being like, oh, that person's name is this? Of course it is. They must talk like that because their name is that.
Our prime minister's name is Justin. Can you imagine if a country, like a leader of a country's name was Chad?
Oh my God.
There's a country called Chad, you stupid bitch.
Imagine like a president of the United States, Chad.
Bro, I was out snowboarding with my homie Justin. Chad is a musician.
Sorry, I lost my cool there.
And he has totally sick lyrics. He's really gonna blow up, bro.
Yeah.
Did you go to that Rage concert? Oh my God. Yeah. That's what it's giving.
Yeah.
I heard Rage was coming in town, so I'm going to hit up my ex-girlfriend because I know she's totally hot for me. And
this is
Racist featuring Chad, by the way.
This is
featuring Chad Boy.
So she continues. Justin had a man bun.
Of course he did.
Of course he did. Of course he did.
Really,
anything
really
they say. Justin had a shaved head. Oh, of course he did. Oh, Justin had a crew cut. Oh, of course he did.
Of course he did.
Of course he did.
He also found that labels were also oppressive.
I just find
of course he did.
labels like really oppressive to my man bun.
These are the same guys who think that like women's boundaries or standards are oppressive to men.
Yeah.
Fuck those
Of
guys.
course they do.
I just feel like my man bun isn't as luxurious if I'm in a monogamous relationship.
Of course he did.
Justin thought he was a very good boy because he was woke and also a sex-positive feminist.
Of course he was.
He was also very in touch with his emotions, which is apparently just another way of saying he liked to monologue at women. Also, he was depressed, refused to go to therapy, and refused to communicate over anything other than Snapchat. I know, I was so stupid. Forgive me.
Snapchat communication is at minimum a yellow flag.
Yeah. In men, when men do it. When a man asks a woman to communicate via Snapchat, that's a red flag.
So if he's depressed, I don't know if I should have came up with a slightly more depressed Chad voice.
Oh, that sounds pretty depressed.
I find monogamy really oppressive to women.
Whoa, why are you talking shit about mental health now? Not cool.
I
ladies.
consider myself a sex positive feminist.
This is the worst episode of all time, by the way.
Okay. These guys who are in touch with their emotions, these oh so sensitive guys who monologue at women, most of them are just covert narcissists. And I honestly would prefer a stoic guy who can't talk about feelings. I would prefer that over someone who's straight up emotionally manipulative, right? I'd rather date a guy who doesn't talk about his feelings at all than talk to a guy who talks about his feelings in a way to like force me to feel pity for him because he's a fucking sociopath and wants to exploit my empathy.
A few months had passed, and quite frankly, I was getting sick of his man bun wearing, but label avoidant shit. We were meant to be going for a weekend away in a really remote part of the country, and on the way there, he made me drive around for an hour because he wanted to get food from an independent restaurant, but we couldn't find one that was open.
Of course he did.
This caused him to become really upset and essentially led to about an hour and a half of intense sulking, with an attitude compounded by the fact that he had gotten in a fight with his mum, who he lived with.
Oh, his mum's he?
Oh, what a poor baby.
I spit out my drink.
He's sad because he got in a fight with his mom whose basement he lives in.
Was he built nice? Because maybe he lived with his mom because all he does is go to the gym.
I hate men like that, honestly. I've dated men like that. They're like, I live with my mom and she cooks me everything and I just spend like 4 hours a day at the gym. That's a Chad move. Yeah. Anyways,
I decided this was just too much bullshit for somebody who wasn't even a proper boyfriend. I smiled and nodded to all his nonsense, told him I wanted to stop to get some gas, pulled into a station about 300 kilometers away from anything else, then suggested he go inside to get some snacks, blocked him.
yeah, she's good at teaching men lessons. I like that. Yeah.
She deserted him?
I mean,
This is very Machiavellian, but I'm sort of like, I'm loving it. Loving it.
I've said this before, men don't understand communication. The only language they speak is consequences. So, yeah.
So,
Psychotic. She left him?
another one bites the dust, and I think the only way out of that mess for him involved like a $2,000 cab ride, which quite
$2,000.
frankly warms my heart. That's now Justin and Chad in the dust.
Yeah, so two men down.
yeah, we're like 2/5 of the way through a boy band.
I spent a few years finishing another degree and working on myself and getting a scholarship to do a PhD in the UK. Hi, Savannah. Hi. Before I got there, the university I was going to had made a page for new students to connect, and that's where I met Jamie. Oh, God.
Is Jamie a red flag name in the UK or something?
Yeah.
Oh.
Oh, shut the fuck up.
Justin, Jamie, and Chad.
Justin, Jamie, and Todd.
Yeah, okay.
Oh,
He
of
said
course. What does Jamie look like? Of course
He
he
had
does.
basic social skills which really made him stand out from the crowd.
Unlike most men who are socially incompetent.
That's about where his positive qualities stopped, though. He was also depressed, really liked Jordan Peterson. He was fresh out of a relationship and not ready for anything serious. Anyways, when I got to the UK, we met and went to some events where we made a few new friends to hang out with. Just like I, at the very least, had the good sense to see early on how much of a low-value train wreck he was and resolved to not see him as a romantic prospect. I sort of feel bad for this, for Jay now, because the thing is, right, and this is like my thirst trapping coming out here, but like international students to the UK are always really hot. Like I had a job like welcoming international students, and I swear the only reason why I did that job was because it would be like a room full of just like high candy. Like the French engineers are my favorite because they were always the hottest and the smartest, closely followed by the Dutch ones. But yeah, I would always go and just be like super, super thirsty. So I kind of feel bad that she missed out on all this because she clearly connected with Jamie before she came.
Yeah, why are foreign exchange students so hot? Like in my high school, we had a few foreign exchange students from I think it was like Germany and like Sweden and stuff, and they were super tall and super attractive, but because they dressed well and put effort into their appearance, all the like local boys who wore fucking basketball shorts and like UFC flat brim ball caps would call the foreign exchange students metrosexual. Like they basically thought it was like gay to shower and shave every day.
Yeah, they were jealous.
It is.
Don't you have to have money usually to do foreign exchange things in high school or in college?
Generally speaking, yeah.
Yeah, so that's probably why.
Yeah, but they were so attractive. Like I used to do that twice a year, and I used to look forward to it every single time.
They come fitted up
she
and
must
fresh
have just been fucking getting dick down, Savannah.
to death.
Nice, eye candy.
Anyway, so she continues. A few weeks later, I was hosting a board game snacks night at my flat, and when everyone was getting ready to go, he offered to stay and help me clean up, in quotation marks. So I naively let him. So of course, a few minutes later, I've got this scrote trying to kiss me, and then I sort of leaned back until he opened his eyes and realised what was going on. The next few minutes were pretty awkward. I couldn't really leave because we were in my flat, and he just sort of stood there. Then he asked if I wanted to talk about it and asked why I didn't like him, in quotation marks, because he thought we got along really well. I sort of said and gestured a bit, and gestured broadly at all of him. Eventually he left.
I mean, usually you would just ask a girl out on a date or something. You don't just try to plaster your lips on hers.
Yeah, gosh, oh.
Right? I just feel like there's no build up. And when men do stuff like that, I don't know if they think it's romantic in their head. This is why, in some respects, I feel like they get
it works sometimes.
this idea from Hollywood that just like surprise makeouts are always hot for women.
Yeah, because
No, they're not always. But sometimes they are.
women in Hollywood, you think about all the Indiana Jones movies,
Don't know
you know,
unless
the
you
woman's
try.
like fighting with him and then he kisses her to make her shut up and she responds positively to it. You know, men watch that kind of stuff and think, oh, if I try that, then women will respond positively to that.
No, I don't. I watch it and I go, that's fucking science fiction right there. What nonsense is this shit?
Like, fuck that. That's borderline sexual assault.
They tend to make spontaneous sexual
Imagine
combustion more realistic.
Indiana Jones kisses that chick and she's like, that was borderline sexual assault. Bum, ba, dun, dun. And then it's him just trying to get the court case of doom, the rape trial of doom.
It really is, especially with no warm up or warning.
Yeah.
It's probably, and generally usually better, ask her if she wants to hang out with you. Free tip there, guys. Free dating tip.
And so I was meant to host a pancake party the next weekend, which is exactly what it sounds like. Invite a load of people over and make pancakes, basically an excuse to drink maple syrup. And he knew about it.
Oh, this is totally a Canadian Patreon subscriber.
Yeah, this is one of yours. It's one of yours, Lilith.
Is this what you Canadians do? Do you just sit around drinking maple syrup for
Yeah,
fun?
that's a Canadian hobby. We take shots. We just we take our shots of whiskey and then chase it with maple syrup.
Shut up, Lilith.
No.
Okay. I mean, I don't know. I'm not judging. Maple syrup is delicious.
No, leave that in. Americans now think that Canadians
Leave that in. What, they were going to edit that
take
out?
shots of maple syrup as chaser for our whiskey.
Hey, weirder things have happened.
Yeah, we also live in igloos and live off of moose meat. And,
Moose meat.
you know, when we get into arguments with sociopaths, we push them off the ice floes in the middle of winter.
Makes sense.
What?
I always suspected.
The way that we deal with rapists in Canada is by taking them to an ice floe in the middle of winter, then pushing them off when nobody's looking. Just kidding.
Some guy on
Just kidding.
ice skates.
Although she goes, just kidding.
Leave them for the polar bears. Anyways, yeah. So back to the pancakes, maple syrup.
It turns out he still wanted to come to the pancake night, which I suspect was
Holy fuck, this is still the roast of
because
Scrote.
there'd be other women there. But anyways, a few days before, I was in Poundland waiting in line to get some measuring cups. And
Poundland? Did she just say Poundland? Is that like dollar as in like a dollar store? But it's called Poundland? I thought she was like, you were taking her to Poundland.
thinking about how I could possibly make this Lex awkward when something
Poundland?
caught my eye. It was the card stand. My brain thought that humour would be a great way to fix this whole mess. So a few days later, when I saw him in person, I gave him a sincerest condolences card from Poundland just after I had rejected him in front of everyone. It was hilarious. It wasn't hilarious for him, but definitely for the rest of us. I like to think I was avenging all the women he slept with and then ghosted. He blocked me after that, but then unblocked me a few months later. They always reappear to say Merry Christmas and ask if I wanted to try being friends again. I then sent him a screenshot of a welcome back card and never heard from him again. Triple Scrote roast concluded.
She already kind of really hurt all these guys' feelings more than we can in this small little podcast.
Yeah, so this is almost a queen shit.
I mean, there's also an element here where, I mean, these are the guys you're choosing, so.
This isn't even a roast of Scrote. This is just queen shit.
So
Either
thanks
you're
for that
terribly
triple stack
unlucky
roast, Jay.
or-
If you want to submit your own roast of Scrote, then subscribe to our Patreon, www.patreon.com/the female dating strategy, and we will happily barbecue your Scrote to your liking.
Barbecue
Let's start
the
the show.
Off to Poundland.
What's up, Queens? Welcome to the
Queens?
Female Dating Strategy Podcast, the meanest female-only podcast on the internet. I'm your host, Bro.
And this is Savannah.
And I'm Lilith.
Okay, so today's episode is a bit of a follow-up from an episode we did a few weeks ago called How to Level Up Your Pick-Me Friends. One of the ideas that we ended that episode on was the idea that if you level up your pick-me friends, your friends might decide to spend more time with other
Oh, so this is a bit of a part two from
friends
last
or
episode.
invest less in that relationship. And you might also have friends that are too toxic to remain friends with. And therefore, you might find yourself friendless. Not even just because of this, but sometimes people move and there's a lot of different life circumstances in which people end up without friends. So we had some people request that, hey, can you talk about how to meet new friends if you find yourself friendless? So Savannah, Lilith, and I all had different ideas about that we were going to discuss in this episode.
We're going to talk through the 3 essential phases of making friendships, which is 1, how to meet people, 2,
This is another
how to break
friend
the
dating
ice, and 3,
strategy.
how to follow up and maintain the friendship.
And we'll discuss some of the challenges that people with different personality types face, like if you're an introvert versus an extrovert.
So I'll kick off, and I'm quite an introverted person. I like being by myself. I'm like being around people can drain me quite a bit, but when I'm in social situations, I can hide that quite well. But generally speaking, I mean, I would classify myself as an introvert. I've had people say when they first met me, oh, I didn't know you could even speak at all. I just thought you were mute because I'm just so quiet. I can be very, very quiet and shy. So, I mean, one thing I would like to say, though, is if you are an introvert, unfortunately, there is really no way around making new friends apart from putting yourself out there. It's incredibly
Besides from
difficult and
not being an
challenging if
introvert.
you're not really a social butterfly or if, you know, socializing doesn't come naturally to you as it does to some people. But that's really the only way you can, you know, truly meet new people just on your wavelength is just to put yourself out there. And the thing is, like, most people are looking to make friends. I think that once you leave either school or college or university,
Is this a
it becomes
skip?
exponentially more difficult. I mean, to even maintain the friendships that you've got, talk less of like making new friends as well. I think we realize that we are only friends with a lot of people just because we see them around all the time.
What does this
So,
have to do
you know,
with
once you're in a
dating?
position where you don't see your friends every single day, it then becomes a lot more effort to maintain those friendships.
So just to piggyback on what Savannah said, I see on the subreddit a lot women saying, oh, I'm an introvert, that's why I struggle to make friends, or I'm an introvert, that's why I don't have many friends. And I just want to tell women, every time I talk to a woman who says something like that, I want to just almost like shake her and be like, girl, you need to have friends. Like, even if you're an introvert, you have to go out there and make friends, because
Poll's been put to the chat. Skip or no? We'll find
you
out
don't ever want to be in a
soon.
situation where you're isolated or you're alone or you don't have anyone.
Feels like they're just doing
any
another
woman
episode
in your
of the
life to
last
rely on.
one.
I find women who are introverted are so much more vulnerable to predatory men, because in my experience anyways, I've met women who are introverted. They find a man who really, for whatever reason, they really like him, and then they go off with him and he's like their one and only friend. Like, he's the only person they regularly interact with or are vulnerable with, and so on. And that can create a very dangerous situation if that man later turns out to be low value or even abusive. So that's why it's important to have a network of...
I don't know. There's something about them saying low value in such a serious term. Like, it's like low value and abusive or together.
Women friends who will have your back if you're ever in that kind of situation.
Women, you need friends. It's a good thing for people to have friends of their own
You don't want to
sex.
put yourself in a position where you're easy to isolate.
So that's like that's the preamble of why this is important.
Yeah, and also if you just want to live a good life. I mean,
Yeah.
so often, yeah,
Just have a
it's
high value life. Yeah.
Yeah, just having people around that you can resonate with, who are interested in what you've got going on and you're invested in their life, is just, a part of us being social creatures. So the first topic we wanted to cover was where to actually meet new friends.
Savannah, where do you like to meet friends as an introvert?
Okay, so what's worked for me is volunteering. All of my, actually majority of my high value friends I met during university when we were all volunteering on the same cause, essentially. And, what's good about volunteering is that if you're somebody who initially struggles to make conversation with people, it's really good because you have something to talk about, because you're all there for the same reason. And I think, it isn't always...
This is fucking boring. What are we thinking? Skip here? There's only 70 to 30. We'll let it go like another minute, and then I'll go with what the will of the
people volunteer for the wrong reasons. But people who volunteer, they tend to be hardworking, empathetic, quite caring, and they tend to have all the qualities that would make someone a good friend. So that's what I found really helped me at university, was just volunteering, and it's great for development generally as well, both personally and professionally. So, and the good thing about volunteering is that, well, at least in the UK, it shouldn't actually cost you anything to volunteer. You should never be out of pocket if you're a volunteer. So, it's a great way to give back to the community and also to grow and to be within a community of, like-minded people who share the same values as you do.
Oops.
Yeah. I think volunteering is a great way to meet women, especially because women are more likely than men to volunteer.
Right. It's a skip.
Oh, yeah.
It's a skip. These chicks are talking about volunteering. What a snooze fest. All right. That was episode 34 of the Female Dating Strategy Podcast. We knocked another one out. Let's get to episode 35, which they stopped putting numbers on some of them in a confusing fashion. So here is the next one, titled...
Before we get started,
The
I'd
Queens
just like to tell
are
you
off to baggage reclaim with Natalie Liu. The Queens welcome Natalie Liu. Most famous as the creator of the extremely popular baggage reclaim blog. In addition to being a published author, over the last 15 years, she's focused on helping women break the cycle of unhealthy relationships and the pattern of unhelpful habits. This sounds like a fucking another
about
snooze
some
fest
recent
too.
changes we've made to our Patreon. We now have a Discord server that's exclusive for our Level Up and Queen Shit members. So if you'd like to chat directly with the hosts of this podcast and make friends with other like-minded queens, sign up for our Patreon and select either the Level Up or Queen Shit tier.
Okay, I'm skipping this one because the next episode is Barstool Sports Dave Portnoy. Let's roast this middle-aged blobfish. All right, so we're gonna... Sorry, Dave. I love you, man. But this is what the episode is going to be. We're going one. So this would be episode 35, 33, 34, 36, actually. All right, so we did some damage here. Knocked out 4. So here we go. Episode 36 of the Female Dating Strategy Podcast, Barstool Sports, Dave Portnoy. Let's roast this middle-aged blobfish.
I'd just like to tell you about some recent changes we've made to our Patreon.
No,
we now have a Discord server that's exclusive
for our Level Up.
Messiah.
Scrote.
Messiah.
Damn it.
Other like...
No, I just...
Welcome to the Female Dating Strategy
Queens?
Podcast, the meanest female-only podcast on
Oh,
the
it's
internet.
so
I'm
mean.
your host, Ro.
And this is Savannah.
They called me a
So today,
scrote.
we're going to do one long extended roast to Scrote of Dave Portnoy from Barstool
Oh,
Sports.
shit.
Scrote grandpa. Yeah, he's the Scrote
Love
prophet,
Portnoy.
I think.
Scrote Messiah.
Scrote messiah, yeah. Here's a vetting strategy, ladies. If a guy says he likes David Portnoy, that's a red flag.
Absolutely.
Wrong.
Yeah.
He's a date rapist, probably.
Probably.
Although
Whoa.
we got to be careful about what we say because he's petty as fuck and clearly Sue happy and vengeful.
I mean, you're calling him a
vindictive and
rapist,
entitled,
ladies.
so-
He's the type of guy to stick his lawyers after us. He said in a video, like, I'm famous for holding a grudge. Honestly, okay. Can you imagine, though, if he did sue us, though? Like, how good that would be for FDS,
Hell yeah.
right?
Blow up our brand.
Like, that shit would make headlines,
It absolutely would.
right? I hope he fucking sues us.
Free publicity.
Except for that
Bring it-
you're anonymous, and then you'll get found out as being not anonymous, and you do not want that. Ladies.
Attention to us, please.
Yeah. Please pay us attention. Barstool Sports, give us free publicity. Sue us. I fucking dare you.
Give women a reason to support us.
Yeah. Yeah, if David Portnoy comes after us, can you imagine how much women would support us after that?
Hell yeah.
Yeah, so ladies, don't forget to sign up for our Patreon. We're going to need all the help we can get with
No.
our eventual malicious slap lawsuit.
Everyone just hates this slimy little blobfish. He's built like a colostomy bag. He's a 44-year-old middle-aged man who is creepy as shit,
Probably a malignant narcissist.
probably. So what happened this
I mean, he's
past
worth
week
$300
was...
million.
Should we explain who he is or what he does?
Oh, yeah, let's go into that first.
Yes,
Dave
explain who he
Portnoy
is.
is the CEO of Barstool Sports.
What the fuck is Barstool Sports other than just
What's Barstool Sports?
Media for
Huge
stupid
media
people.
brand.
Media for stupid people. That's all it is, really. But it started out as a magazine, a sports-oriented magazine, and it expanded into a more webzine over time. And then he started creating a network of podcasts, which includes podcasts like Call Her Daddy with Alex Cooper and Sophia Franklin. If you've been following all the drama with them, they recently had a falling out. But then there's just like other podcasts that are more sports-oriented, like Pardon My Take, et cetera, et cetera. So it's basically a website for sports
and smooth brain people?
and smooth brain people and a series of sports podcasts. But yeah, it's uniquely smooth brain because there's other, and I'm a person that loosely
Smooth
follows sports.
brain.
I probably follow the NBA out of all the other major leagues. There's plenty of other websites that do sports commentary that are not as shit and scroty as Barstool Sports. Like specifically Barstool Sports in the sports world is known for being degenerate, frat boy.
It's like
Yeah.
literally the lowest common denominator entertainment, really.
Yeah, like drunken frat boys who
I'd say
probably
this
date rape
is-
you is basically their brand.
Oh
Whoa.
my gosh.
Oh
The
my
best part about
gosh.
it is that they don't particularly like run away from that characterization. They sort of embrace it.
Yeah, they embrace that with their whole heart.
And what's sad about it is like Dave Portnoy, he just does not look by any stretch of the imagination like he was the type of guy to really get girls before he got rich. In fact, he just looks like a garden variety incel. And he was married.
Haha, incel.
That's surprising.
Yeah, he was married for like 10 years
I didn't know he
before
was married.
Barstool Sports really got big and he got really wealthy. And then he got, I don't know if they're officially divorced, but they've been separated for some time. And now he spends his free time messaging teenagers, trying to do depraved, abusive sex at them.
So the reason why David Portnoy is in the headlines these days is because Business Insider just came out with what he calls a hit piece.
So we're a year behind because this was
I
last
just
year.
call reporting or journalism about his fucked up sex life. The title of the article is, quote, "I was literally screaming in pain," end quote. Young women say they met Barstool Sports founder Dave Portnoy for sex and it turned violent and humiliating. Author is Julia Black.
Okay, so trigger warning on this. There's some graphic depictions of sexual violence. So we're going to read from the Business Insider article.
Viewer discretion is advised. So the article starts out, in the summer of 2020, Madison sent Barstool Sports founder David Portnoy a direct message on Instagram complimenting his famous one-bite pizza reviews. "Sick pizza reviews," she wrote. "Thanks, fly bitch." Portnoy responded. Is this how stupid people flirt? Like, is that how...
Honestly,
might
it must
be.
be. I'm already bored of this man.
Yeah, I'm already bored of this conversation. Anyways, she was a 20-year-old college student at the time, Portnoy a 43-year-old multimillionaire. The conversation soon moved to Snapchat and text where it quickly turned the topic of sex. He sent her graphic videos of other women he'd slept with, according to Madison, and in messages reviewed by Insider, he pressed her to tell him about her sexual fantasies. So first of all, like, it's weird that he would send videos of him sleeping with other women to this girl, like sending her porn of himself.
Yeah, he doesn't give a fuck if he's out here just like distributing porn, both of himself and then the women he had sex with. Because the other question is, did the women he had sex with know that they were being filmed and that furthermore that he was distributing
I'm
it
sure they knew they were being
to
filmed.
random people he met on Instagram?
Right? That's the other question that just occurred to me now that you brought it up. It's like, do these other women know they're being filmed and do they know that
Yes.
he's distributing it? So the article continues.
I don't
She says,
know.
I mean, actually, this one's kind of common, like a rape fantasy where I don't have any control of what's going on. And then he responds, "You and I are going to get along so well." And she says, "But I will say, in order to do that one, I have to be pretty comfortable with you." Madison said. And Portnoy responds, of course. And then he bought her a first-class plane ticket to visit him at his $2.2 million Nantucket home. She says, the trip was a traumatic experience. She arrived at Portnoy's 4-bedroom home around 3 p.m., tired enough from her travels that she didn't mind when Portnoy told her that they would order in
Business Insider is super shady, by the way. So.
pizza instead of going out. Okay. Weird, but okay. It's like he doesn't even take her on a date. He just orders some pizza.
Exactly. First red
He just flew her first class.
flag. I mean, that's why we say don't do house dates.
Yeah, don't do house dates.
Period. I think that
Yeah,
was the
don't go out of state for a date.
first red flag is that.
No, there's
Red
so many red
flag.
flags before that, but that's the first red flag of her physically being in his presence.
Yeah, true, Lilith.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's so many red flags before that, but we'll get to that.
Yeah. But like that's deliberate, right? He doesn't want to be seen out with her,
Yeah.
etc. So he's trying to keep her confined to the home.
He's trying to keep her confined in the house where she's alone and isolated. Red flag. Huge fucking red flag. Anyways, still, she was surprised to find him nothing like his charismatic online persona.
First of all, girl,
Was he really that charismatic? Really?
what charisma? I don't know. Maybe she thought he was a nice
Girl.
guy because he says he is.
It's actually very common for like narcissistic or just shitty people in general to project this sort of online persona of them being so funny and relatable and likable. But then when you
Well, that's what gets them popular online.
actually are alone with them behind closed doors, their true self rears its ugly head.
And I will say though, if they were talking about kink and BDSM again as part of, I guess you can call it grooming, but as part of the getting to know you process, oftentimes, you know, these men are on their best sort of behavior and you think you bond over being into BDSM, basically. It gives you an
Bond.
artificial sense of, oh my gosh, this person really gets me. Especially online as well. I've heard some real horror stories, and I've had some as well, of people connecting online over kink, and then when they see the person in real life, they're just totally different to what they expected. So there's that too.
That's
I don't
a
know if you guys know this, but
catfish.
people lie on the internet.
Wow, really? I had no idea. Crazy.
Yeah.
And today I found out the Pope is Catholic.
Wow. Breaking
Good
news, water is
one.
wet.
Right.
So she says,
Good.
still, he was surprised to find him nothing like his charismatic online persona. Quote, he was very rude. He wasn't funny at all. He just reminded me of a boring, grumpy old man.
Well, yeah. He is like boring, grumpy old man.
That's literally what he is.
That's literally what he is.
He's a boring, grumpy old man. Like,
That's because what he is.
who's built like a sack of laundry.
That's what
this is an
is.
example of it not even being an insult. You're just describing him accurately.
Yeah, that is who he is. And I'm just wondering again, the disconnect between who he actually is, which seems fairly obvious to maybe like you and I and Savannah, but is not obvious to these girls. And I wonder, again, it's probably that's why he picks women in this age group, right? 19, 20, who don't have any type of experience, who can't read this guy yet, because those are the only women who don't have a grasp on who this man is.
I feel bad for this poor Madison girl just because I remember being 19 or 20. I actually had a sugar daddy when I was 19. And
Oh,
reading this
did
article was actually
you?
very hard for me because what she's describing was very similar to the way that my sugar daddy treated me. And we'll get into it later. We'll get there. Anyways, after dinner, they started kissing. Madison said she first became uncomfortable and Portnoy pulled out his phone and started filming her without asking permission as she performed oral sex on him. Quote, I never said anything. I was scared. He was just so mean.
Yeah, so that's a felony, first of all.
Like, yeah, filming someone performing a sex act on you without their permission is, yeah, illegal, right?
And it's surprisingly common as well. Like, shock.
Well, what? She just. I mean, obviously, it sounds like she didn't want to do it after the fact, but you have to ask. I think it's just she would say, "I don't want you to do this," right?
Shockingly common. I don't know why guys do that. It's just why.
He deliberately, I know, is probably trying to collect evidence to blackmail these girls and also
You think he's blackmailing her?
because he knows he does things that are borderline, very, very borderline, and can absolutely be qualified as sexual assault, that he does this in order to give
Anything
himself
he-
plausible
Or he
deniability.
films it just to be like, see, it's
So
not.
this is definitely like that Scrote, like red pill manosphere type behavior where they're like, oh, I'm going to film girls when I have sex with them to prove the sex was consensual. So he's both doing this for his own like collection, which
Yeah,
he
like she flew to his house.
clearly sends to other women unprompted
To add to his trophy collection.
to add to his trophy collection, which he sends to random people apparently, but also as blackmail evidence.
Yeah, so the filming without the consent, yeah, it has three functions. One, as a trophy of their fucking sexually depraved shit. Two, as blackmail if the girl ever comes forward, or if basically it's like an insurance policy for when he does something violent or fucked up to her later, he can just pull out that video and either threaten her for it, and then three, use it as evidence that, oh, it wasn't rape, look at her consensually blowing me, kind of thing.
And groom other girls, maybe 4, to send it to other girls to help groom them.
Exactly, yeah. So the filming without permission has 4 predatory functions, essentially. The article continues, from there, things escalated until, as Madison put it, I felt like I was just a human sex doll. 2 days later, Madison texted a close friend. It was so rough, I felt like I was being raped. He videotaped me and spit in my mouth and choked me so hard I couldn't breathe, she wrote in messages viewed by Insider, and it hurt and I was literally screaming in pain. She recalled crying and shouting, too much, and it hurts. It was so painful, Madison said. I kept trying to get away and he was like, stop running away from me, stop running away from me. What the fuck? What the fuck? Like, okay, the stop running away from me is what rapists say, right? If you don't want people to think you're a rapist, then don't act like a rapist.
So I've actually experienced this before. I've experienced like wanting to get away from a guy and he just like bear arms you or tries to chase you, and it's fucking weird because you're in a position where there's nowhere for you to go, right? And especially she's in a city she doesn't understand. He has all the leverage in the situation. He's well known. It's, you know, she has like literally zero power in this situation.
The power dynamics of this interaction are just terrifying.
Yeah,
So,
she's an idiot. She fucking flew to his house.
but Portnoy, she said, just went harder. Madison's flight home wasn't until 2 days later, so she slept on Portnoy's couch both nights. They did not have sex again. David Portnoy makes no secret of the fact that he likes to have sex with young women and to push the boundaries of what is considered socially acceptable. In many ways, that image is at the core of the brand that has made him one of the wealthiest and most powerful figures in digital media. There are the rape jokes, his reputed use of the N-word on camera, and his harassment of female journalists. So he has a long history of just being a generally shitty person.
And for not wanting to take accountability for his questionable behavior.
Yeah, like that is his brand, is being a rapey
Quite
scrote.
literally.
We're reading an article that's literally describing rape, and I know that
I don't know about that, but-
I don't know what the legalities of like alleging someone has committed a crime, right? So I know the article itself kind of skirts around it. It doesn't flat out call him a rapist or an assault, you know, that he assaulted her, but the description is pretty clear.
Allegedly assaulted, yeah.
And let's be clear,
Oh.
I swear to God.
Do we
I
know?
will sit
Was this proven anything? Because this would have been a
here
year
and
ago
roast his
now.
ass all day long. I don't give a shit. I feel like a lot
I mean,
of
I know he's suing them right now. He has no legal
times
charges or
women
anything.
get intimidated out of actually talking to these guys on their level because they feel like, well, I don't want to be like called a bitch or like a, you know, or a cat lady or a femcel or whatever. We came from Reddit. Our skin is so
We came
thick,
from
it's crusted
Reddit.
over.
Reddit Army,
scales now at
rise
this point.
up.
We have scales. We have literal crocodile scales.
We have fucking armor. Our skin is so thick it's become armor.
So we can roast this Scrote all day.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't think he'll sue us. What he'll probably do is make a post on like Twitter or Instagram or some shit and tell his followers like, oh, like go after these femcells or whatever.
like, bitch, we don't care.
Like, bitch, we deal with that every fucking day. We deal with Scrotes attacking us every day. Go ahead, Savannah. Sorry.
And ultimately, like, they can roast us, but it's not us who are DMing 19-year-old women to basically be sexually rough with them.
I mean, she DM'd him.
Like, however way you slice it, that behavior is pathetic. Absolutely pathetic. If a man can't get women his own
In
age,
his own city,
He can get women his own age. Do you think that he goes for younger women because he can't get women his own age?
he's defective. He's
if he has to fly them out from another city, like what the fuck
Damn, sometimes these chicks have just no idea how the world works.
is wrong with you?
What's wrong with you?
me and Bryce spoke about this actually. But we said, like, if somebody's own people, like if it's state or country doesn't want them, they're defective. If the factory doesn't want something, it's a defective product. You don't go near it. You might as well just
What?
toss it out. If it's factory reject.
He probably already has a rep in his town for sure. My other point, and I made this on Twitter, is
I mean,
that
again, he has his DMs are probably just nonstop, like thousands of girls like this who would do this.
I feel like social media gives these guys a level of plausible deniability that they're specifically seeking out teenagers, because before social media, guys like this would have to hang out at the local high school in their van and wait for the kids to leave so they could holler at girls leaving high school, or at the food court at the mall, or some kind of public space where it's very clear and obvious that they're there specifically to pick up on teenagers. And so like the optics of that and the creep factor of that becomes very, very obvious versus like,
So this is like the internet version of that.
yeah, this is the internet version of the creepy townie guy, the creepy middle-aged townie guy who lives in a van,
Yeah, the creepy middle-aged townie guy who owns a private jet and is worth $300 million.
who
You know
shows
that
up
guy?
to all the like high school functions still, right? Or like or still hits on freshman girls in college, even though he graduated literally 23 years ago. Yeah, the internet gives him
Three
too much
more
of a
likes.
cover,
Come
but this
on.
is that same behavior.
So the article goes on. Since 2019, he appeared in 3 sex tapes that have leaked online. The stock price of Barstool's parent company plunged after the most recent video in which he violently chokes a woman using a collar and a leash. Both
And that was the kind of stories that Business Insider, which is owned by this guy Henry Blodgett, started, who was banned for life from trading, I believe, or investing stuff, something along those lines. Did this all intentionally and shorted the stock to make
Portnoy and the
go
woman
down.
said the encounter was consensual.
So 2 things
there
about
you go.
that. First of all, again, how do these things quote unquote leak? Either he leaked them or the woman leaked
It's
them. Right?
Business
Or-
Insider was trying to tank the price of the stock, and again, I have a very good idea right now that they're going to go with the women don't have agency thing, which is often you hear that where whenever something goes the other way, they go, yeah, women she couldn't have agreed, she didn't have any agency. we'll see if that's where we go with.
Actually, he could have sent it to some other girl, and then she leaked it. But the question is always like, he's taking all these videos that he has and then distributing them to people without the knowledge and prior consent of the person.
Shout out
who's
to
in the actual video.
Liam.
So the article goes on. For years, Portnoy has managed to escape scrutiny. His behavior and comments weren't just accepted, they were expected. A 2020 Barstool documentary series produced by the media company features Portnoy forcefully digitally penetrating a sex doll while donning a tuxedo, later declaring himself the Finger King. For many, David Portnoy
That's
is a
funny.
hero, but some in his orbit, particularly women, have told Insider that they felt as though he abused his fame and power and put them in compromising positions.
I mean, the CEO of Barstool Sports is a woman.
Insider spoke with more than 24 people with direct experience with Portnoy and Barstool, including 8 current or former employees. Some women as young as 19 who had no professional connection to Portnoy recounted having sexually explicit online exchanges with him. 3 of these women said they had sex with Portnoy, now 44, and that the encounters turned into frightening and humiliating experiences that have taken a toll on their mental health. 2, including Madison, said Portnoy both choked and filmed them without advance permission. Another, who had depression, said she was suicidal after the 2 had sex. Damn, imagine being so fucking bad at sex. Imagine being so bad at sex that the woman becomes suicidal after.
I mean, just being like subjecting them to violence. I mean, the thing about this discussion is that he's just normalized the idea that if a woman has sex with you, he's allowed to punch, beat, choke, spit on you and shit. Like the fuck? It is assault to hit, punch, spit, and choke people without their prior explicit agreement and consent. And it can be withdrawn at any time.
Even if they consent, it's still assault. It's still assault to me. Actually,
It's still assault.
What?
I'm going to get into this later, but I'm now of the view that it actually is irrelevant.
I mean, again, I've said this before, but I've never brought up choking a woman, but it gets brought up quite a bit, ladies.
To me, if the woman consents to it, the fact that the man even wants to do that to begin with means he is a predator. It just means that he's found he's just selected a good victim.
Highly
I
problematic.
don't know. This is most chicks.
I agree. I mean, we take that position across the board that any guy that's into BDSM is probably a scrote. I'm just saying from a legal standpoint, there's no difference between the fact that he does this during sex versus if he just did this to a woman with her clothes on, right? What's the difference? Because she didn't explicitly say this. She didn't explicitly ask for this. And there's a lot of evidence that they've all provided evidence that she said no, she didn't want to do this. So he just assaulted her. He just gave her a violent beatdown.
Article continues. She said she was suicidal after the 2 had sex, and all 3 were afraid to speak out, fearing retaliation from the media mogul and his rabid fan base. This article uses pseudonyms chosen by Insider, which is aware of the women's real identities. Quote, "I know how he is when someone goes after him," said the second woman, who said she was both choked and filmed without advance permission. She asked not to have the specific details of her experience publicly revealed, fearing harassment from Portnoy or his fans. Insider spoke to someone with whom the woman shared details of her rough sex with Portnoy. Quote, "I thought he would say something in public or share videos of me."
So let's be clear. He's already established the precedence of sharing videos and also taking the videos without their prior knowledge and consent. And once this piece dropped, he's been on Twitter
Telling his fans,
ignoring the advice of his lawyers. He literally says, my lawyers don't want me to say anything, but I'm just going to come on here off the cuff because he's a dumbass and a narcissist, first of all. But he goes on there and starts to try to dig up all this information and all the journalists. And he's alleging that the reason this piece came out is because of business insiders trying to tank the stock of his company, of his parent company, and that this is basically a political hit with financial gain for Business Insider. And all of that may or may not be true, but it doesn't detract from his specific behavior. And his specific behavior is using all of his crazy minions to harass the journalists, to harass any woman that speaks out against this, to harass Business Insiders. He's actually behaving exactly how right now on Twitter, and he's been doing it for 24 hours in the manner in which these women were talking about in this article that made them afraid to come forward.
yeah. So the fact that he's confirmed
Well, I mean, the fact is it true or is it not true?
the
What
content
happened?
of this article to
I'm
me.
sure if you were in his position and it was not true, then you probably would do that. And also, the journalists have their news outlets.
lends more credibility to what these victims are saying. I don't think they call it rape, but he did do these violent sexual acts towards them.
And is fully capable of leaking the video against their consent and then sending people to harass them, which is what he's doing right now. And he's calling himself Grudge Dave and saying that he's not going to be canceled, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. He's acting like an unhinged asshole on Twitter right now.
Yeah, he even said in one of the videos, like, I'm famous for having a grudge. I'm famously someone who holds a grudge or something along those lines. And first of all, I think the sort of people who brag about the fact that they hold a grudge are like the lamest fucking people ever. Like, they say it as if it's supposed to be intimidating, like they're trying to be intimidating. And I just see that, I'm like, you're just a fucking pathetic loser. People
Yeah,
who
you
hold
fucking
a grudge
pathetic
like that
loser.
are mentally unwell and probably like sociopaths or psychopaths or narcissists. Like, there's something cognitively wrong with them. Yeah, so I'm gonna skip
Fucking
past some of his articles, just
loser.
talking about like some scroty things that he's done.
It's basically the history of Barstool. And it's just all he did was like get a bunch of scantily clad women to shill his magazine.
Yeah, all he did was start a multi-$100 million media empire. Just, whatever.
And clickbait and shit like that. It's just like a lad mag, but just bottom barrel. It doesn't even pretend to be classy like Playboy used to be.
Wait, I want to read this part of the article. So, the environment reflected in their company's irreverent attitude. Portnoy didn't just court controversy, he relished in it. As he became increasingly known for going against the grain, fans who felt alienated by modern-day woke culture turned to him as the antidote. So take a 2017 episode of the podcast Barstool Radio, during which Portnoy seems to defend the hypothetical casting couch scenario in which Harvey Weinstein says to a struggling actress, "Hey, if you sleep with me, I'm going to put you in a starring role." Quote, "No force, just a question," the Barstool founder said. "Do you have a problem with that trade?"
Okay.
I mean, obviously that did happen.
Let me stop here and say it is illegal in all 50 states, and I'm guessing Canada and the UK, to require sex as a condition of employment. Period. It's disgusting that men don't see a
Whoa. Is she so naive that she doesn't think that women were kind of doing this as well? They were part of this transaction?
problem with this, because this is clearly employer abuse. You can't do that. Imagine if you worked at fucking Microsoft and they're like, "Oh, you can't get a job unless you suck my dick." If like you're
Whoa, what, or eat your pussy?
coming out of Stanford or
Jeez,
MIT and you're
ladies.
like, and Bill Gates rolls up and is like, "You gotta suck my dick if you want a job here." Like, you can't do that shit. But like,
Or
men
Melinda
don't see it as
Gates
that.
is
They
like,
see it as an even exchange.
You want to be an engineer? Time to eat some Melinda Gates puss.
Or like, or that they're doing these women a favor instead of workplace exploitation.
Yeah, they don't even see it as coercion, which it is. It is coercion.
Right, exactly. And I hate
yeah,
when they
but
try to
it's
blame,
also
like, entirely women
untalented people kind of getting a leg up by doing something unethical and shady.
for this, because there will always be people who are desperate enough to do any job, because the world is fucked up, man. Like, the world is really difficult. We know people get sex trafficked. We know people end up being forced into literal slavery in some countries because of just abject poverty. So when you have employers who take advantage of that, they are purposely exploiting poverty. Right? That's why we have things like minimum wage, because otherwise they pay nothing. And we have employment laws and the conditions in which your employers can treat you, and OSHA and all these laws that require employers to uphold a certain standard of care. And this is just completely unacceptable. And I don't like this argument that keeps being pushed by these psychopath like men that it's a trade. Like, no. This is employment abuse. Let's be clear about that.
So the article continues. In 2010, Portnoy infamously wrote a blog post defending an Australian man who'd been acquitted of raping a 24-year-old woman on the so-called skinny jeans defense. He says, "I never condone rape, but if you're a size 6 and you're wearing skinny jeans, you kind of deserve to be raped," Portnoy wrote. The post has since been removed from Barstool's site, but just this May, Portnoy told the Fox News host Tucker Carlson that was only one part of the statement that he regretted. "I thought size 6 was like size 20, he said. "I had my measurement screwed up and I wasn't on top of that." What? So to him, the only part of that post that he regrets that he got the measurements wrong.
Gosh, I'm speechless. I'm actually speechless.
Oh my god. He's such a scrote. Okay, so
roast this
Portnoy's
scrote,
practice is
ladies.
exactly what fans and some colleagues say they love most about him. I love the fact that he's such a piece of shit. Anyways, the big thing about him is that he's very truthful. Truthful. Can you imagine?
See, the thing about this, and we've really tested the limits of men's tolerance of this, they love free speech until it's us. Interesting that.
I wonder if he's going to come after us and be like, "Oh,
No.
they're lying about me." But hey, we're just being truthful.
Yeah, this is just us being honest.
Yeah, we're just being honest here, Portnoy.
Well, look at that, because he didn't come after you. He allowed you to be
Right?
honest.
People love us for our no holds barred scrote dragging. So
Exactly. So I'm curious to see what's going to be the response to this episode.
Nothing.
So, he looks like a leather shoe because he's always like tanned, right? He looks like the kind
Got him. Yeah,
guy who doesn't
now
wear
we're
any sunscreen
talking.
ever and has got so many sunburns that he's going to look like a fucking leather couch by the time he's 50.
Oh, in the
couch,
sights.
Brilliant.
Says Portnoy's longtime friend and Barstool podcast host Elio Imbernorne. I don't know. You might not want to hear exactly what he wants to say, but he says what he believes, and you've got to respect that.
why?
Like, a man could have the worst beliefs. Like, I think I should be entitled to rape women, and then say that out loud, and men will be like, "Wow, he's so honest. He really speaks from the heart."
No, we don't have to respect everyone's beliefs.
Yeah.
No, we don't.
Like, he has bad beliefs, and he expresses those, and those deserve to be criticized. I don't respect that, like, at all. Anyways. Still, not everyone at Barstool is free to broadcast their opinions. In 2018, Portnoy removed 2 posts that cast a sympathetic light on Brett Kavanaugh's sexual assault accuser, Christine Blasey Ford, citing Barstool's no politics policy, but left other posts on the hearings in place. 2 years later, amid Black Lives Matter protests, Portnoy told his content team in an email reviewed by Insider, quote, "If anybody wants to write about politics or mentions white privilege or BLM on either side of the fence, it must be approved by me and only me. Nobody else has the authority to publish anything," end quote. He told them not to bother asking Barstool's editor-in-chief, Keith Markovich. Ask me. What is that? That is weird.
You're not allowed
It's his fucking thing.
to express an opinion he doesn't agree with.
He's the captain.
He's on here ranting on the internet against the expressed advice of his legal team. So this is a soft brain man.
Critics of Barstool, both within and outside the company, told Insider
Soft brain man. 1 year later, only doing better.
that there's a real risk to speaking out. The online community of stoolies, as Barstool's fan, first of all, stoolies, really? All of his fans could be represented by the little poop emoji. That's like the mental image I have. Stoolies, as Barstool fans call themselves, have waged harassment campaigns against detractors. These have included death threats, doxing, online harassment, and targeting of people's families, friends, and workplaces. Bob Murchison, a private equity investor with no professional connection to Barstool, first began tracking Barstool's content in 2019 after it hired a radio host with a history of transphobic comments. Murchison, who has a transgender son, has taken it upon himself to privately warn advertisers of what he perceives to be the company's transphobic, misogynist, and racist content. In 2019, a Barstool employee shared a tweet containing Murchison's cell phone number and email address. His home address was posted on fan-read message boards. In response, Stooley sent Murchison death threats and packages, including one with an object meant to look like a bomb and another containing feces. Staged a quote, prayer vigil in his hometown that was also attended by Barstool employees, contacted organizations with which he was affiliated to make false claims of criminal activity against him, and showed up to his house where they filmed videos of their trespassing, which they later posted online. Quote, I reached out to Erica Nardini, Barstool CEO, and Barstool counsel several times asking them to address this horrific behavior, Murchison told Insider. Their responses left me with the impression that the harassment would only be stopped if I agreed to stop my criticism of their content. I believe the harassment was intended to intimidate and silence me. Nardini did not respond to our request for comment. Portnoy declined to get involved, saying on, quote, Barstool Radio in 2019, this Murchison guy, he sounds like a crazy person. I'm not going to war with someone I've literally never said a word to.
Right, because he has his flying monkeys going out there.
Yeah, he's no need to respond because he's got his flying monkeys to do it. Yeah, exactly. So this spring, Nantucket Magazine featured a glowing profile.
I mean, I would say that the female dating strategy chicks probably have their own flying monkeys that they can go sick after somebody. They know what's
Portnoy,
up.
including a cover shot with Portnoy lounging in the ocean atop a rosé floaty. After readers complained about being offended by Portnoy's inclusion given his history of misogynistic and racist comments, the magazine issued an apology.
Racist.
Portnoy went on the attack, telling Page Six that the Nantucket Magazine editors were, quote, spineless jellyfish who are held hostage by the whims of the vocal minority.
So this loud, brash, offensive white dude, you can sum up almost the rest of this article. Loud, brash, offensive white dude is mad that he can't say loud, brash, offensive white dude things.
And not be criticized for it. Like, he still can say all those things, but he's just going to get criticized. Yeah. Anyways, the article goes on. Oh, no, here's the bad part. Okay. Last July, a young woman, Allison, was at her family's home on Nantucket. She just graduated from high school. According to several people on the island, Portnoy was a celebrity on Nantucket. Recent high school graduates from wealthy New England towns would try to land an invitation to Portnoy's house while summering on the island. The reputation on the island is that he is a god and a king and kind of untouchable, Allison said, and everyone wants to get into his house for parties.
So I just want to point out, this is the behavior I was talking about in our episode we did about how to level up your pick-me friends. This is kind of what you're going to read. What's going to happen in the rest of this article is like the perfect illustration of how your pick-me friends can sometimes put you in really fucked up situations.
Allison's sister Olivia, who'd recently graduated from college, told Insider that some of her friends were sending Portnoy direct messages attempting to get the mogul's attention, but he, quote, wasn't giving them the time of day. Then they realized that her 19-year-old sister Allison might be more his type. They said, you should reach out to him. He likes younger girls. Ugh. And he completely
How old
took
are
the
they?
bait,
21?
He was much more interested in her than any of my 22-year-old friends. Wow. Okay. Yeah, I'm 26, so I guess I'm too old for David Portnoy. I'm practically an old crone.
Practically geriatric, Lilith.
Practically geriatric, yeah. Good, thank God. Allison sent Portnoy a message telling him she was on the island and would love to see him. He invited her over to his house, and she asked him whether she could come by with a couple of friends.
And what's interesting about this is that it's the legal age of alcohol consumption in the United States is 21 everywhere. So
what's he doing inviting over 19?
What are you, the biggest fucking dweebs on earth? What, you never drank when
Girls
you
who
were
drink.
below?
yeah, girls who are under the age of 21 specifically, because this entire paragraph describes the fact that he was across the board not interested in any of her 22-year-old friends, but specifically interested in the 19-year-old friend, which makes no sense
they start
because
drinking when they're
19-year-olds
21.
can't legally drink. So why would you invite girls who can't
you're
even
such a
drink
fucking
to a
dweeb.
house party?
Because he's a predator. That's why.
Right, he's a predator. Exactly.
She asked him whether she could come by with a couple of friends, and he responds, while we fuck, seems weird. Portnoy wrote in a message viewed by Insider. Allison responded, nah, they don't mind. Okay, weird, but okay. Portnoy told Allison he didn't like her friends messaging him, then wrote, I'm not cool with your friends coming, sorry. Allison called off the meetup, unwilling to go alone. So the fact that he wanted her to be alone is another red flag, so that he could isolate her. Like, he couldn't violently rape her with her friends in the other room, right? Like, if he tried to do, he probably knew that he couldn't do sexually what he wanted to do without her screaming in pain and her friends coming to help her, and that's why he didn't want her friends to come along.
So isolation, right? This is the type of thing that Scrotes do. He's looking specifically for
So
underage
nice, why
girls,
would
and
she
he's looking to
bring
isolate
them
these
all?
girls.
And that's why it bothers me when Scrotes are like, well, there's no proof that he did it. Like, predators and rapists, they don't rape people where they can be seen. That's the whole point. They do it when the victim
Is she accusing him of raping her? I don't even know if that's happening.
isolated or when they're alone, so there's no witness, so they can get away with it. That's sort of the point of being a criminal. Criminals don't want to get caught. Just Scrote logic with that one.
Here's
Scrote logic.
okay. This gets bad. I just read ahead. About a week later, though, she messages him again. This time, the two agreed to meet up in the afternoon. I was definitely pushed by my friends, said Allison. Allison recalled sitting
Blaming
by
the
the pool. Portnoy
friends,
offered
not
her
her fault. Just
watermelon
blaming
and
the
water.
friends.
He asked her which school she went to and which grade she was in.
Guy's disgusting.
Is she in high school? He's like, what grade are you in? Oh, I'm in grade 12. Like, that's gross. Anyways,
I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's the specificity of the way that he operates.
he likes high school girls.
Exactly. He's really trying to skirt that line of legality on purpose. And there's nothing materially different between a 19-year-old and a 22-year-old as far as like physical like development per se. This is like a specific. I mean, this is R. Kelly status basically. Like he's seeking out a specific
No, R. Kelly was like literally children.
demographic of girl for the express intention of sexual exploitation.
Yeah, like a 19-year-old and a 22-year-old are not that physically different, but cognitively, it's like night and day. Like when I was 19, I was like so like naive and like idealistic and much more easy to manipulate. By the time I was 22, I'd had so many bad experiences with men that I was a lot less easy to manipulate. So that's probably why. Anyways, he leaned in and started kissing me, and I didn't know what to do at that point. She added, we went upstairs and he was really aggressive and I didn't know what to do, and we had sex and that was it, and he kicked me out. Wow. Allison said her memories were fuzzy because of her emotional distress surrounding the event. I wonder if he drugged her. Like, my memories are fuzzy because I was stressed out. Nah, it's probably because he roofied her. Because of her emotional distress surrounding the event. But like Madison, she said Portnoy choked her. He kept spitting in my mouth, which was really gross, said Allison.
Yeah.
I was kind of scared. I didn't want to disappoint him. A little over, that line, I was scared and I didn't want to disappoint him, feels like a punch to the gut. Because as I'm reading this article, I'm actually feeling sort of triggered because my brain is going back to the abject terror of being in a hotel room alone with a 40-something-year-old man after he's spent thousands of dollars taking me on a vacation, and I'm in a foreign city where I don't speak the language, and feeling like I have to do whatever he wants or else something bad is going to happen. And like thinking, oh, well, he pays my rent, he's paid for this vacation, like I have to do whatever he wants.
But that's the thing. These guys do that on purpose. They try to isolate you so you feel obligated to go along with whatever type of sexual depravity they've already planned out. Like this is a specific act of a predator. They specifically set these scenarios up expressly for that aim. This is not like, oh, I randomly met a girl at a bar or I randomly met it. Because
I mean, you're in a transaction with this guy where you're like, what do you think you are providing for this?
you wouldn't meet these girls at a bar because
It's naive.
they're not of age. So that's the first thing. That's one thing, actually. He wouldn't meet these girls out because, again, there's no reason for a middle-aged man to be hanging around high schoolers.
Yeah, because, a 19-year-old has never gotten to a bar before.
Or girls who just graduated high schools or even college kids for that matter, because he's 44.
It's just
There's literally no
easier.
reason for him to be over there. Like maybe if you went to see a game at a college campus, you could have some kind of plausible deniability, but he's not even doing that. So this guy is just creating a scenario to set up the express type of sexual predation he wants.
Like this is not an accident. This is a deliberate like hunting strategy. He's on the hunt.
They're
a little
messaging
over an hour
him.
later, Allison's friends picked her up. One of the young women who was in the car told Insider
I'm
that
not trying to be like some crazy Portnoy apologist, but like they're just totally mixing up the whole scenario here. They're messaging him. Now, if you say he should not respond to them, but he's not initiating
Allison
with
was
them.
uncharacteristically quiet. She was clearly almost in shock, she said. She basically couldn't talk the next day, Allison's mother told Insider. Allison does not describe what happened to her as sexual assault, but said she was still deeply disturbed by the experience. I just felt very preyed on, she says. Okay. I'm trying to find the words to describe how I'm feeling about this right now.
Scrote.
And I want to say that a lot of the stuff that I did when I was a sugar baby, I technically consented to all of those acts, but they traumatized me nevertheless, right?
What does that mean?
And so
You
that's why-
technically consented. Like there's like a caveat where they want to not take, I guess, responsibility for it. Like they want to be legally an adult, but then they also don't legally want to be an adult when they say stuff like that.
With FDS, we really reinforce this idea that consent alone is not enough. If there's coercion or power dynamics with the age gap, with just like
So what are you saying? Only women should only date men who are what? Older and poorer. Is that
violent
it?
sex when she
Or younger and poorer, I guess.
wasn't expecting it. I still considered that bad.
I mean, it is assault. The only reason why the lines are blurred is because this is a propagation of rape culture under the guise of sex positivity. This is still rape and this is still assault. And the problem is because...
And if you call it rape, they say it's kink shaming.
Exactly. That's been the problem. But the problem is this has been so normalized. And when we talk about like sex or casual sex, this has become a normal part of interaction, at least in men.
I mean, if it was up to these chicks, like 50% of guys would be in
Mine,
jail.
especially these porn sick guys' minds, this is becoming a normal part of the sexual contract and sexual interaction, that this is no longer unusual behavior. And so they don't see this as assault. They see this as like, this is just a kink that some girls have. And since there's so many pick-me's that try to pretend like they can take all this abuse without, it's like they brag about how much abuse they can take without setting boundaries, including people like Tracy Clark Flory. Those lines are constantly being blurred. And it's no longer a kink or a taboo or something that's outside of mainstream sex. It is sex now. This is sex. It's a tragedy because it's not sex, it's assault.
And ultimately, women are the collateral damage in this. You see stories like this, unfortunately, all the time in just within the BDSM community. And the thing is that because there's so much emphasis on, consent, they sort of, miss the other aspects that
There's too much emphasis on
make
consent.
a sexual interaction, a consensual activity. So, for example, if you've got someone screaming in pain or someone who, for example, visibly looks uncomfortable, it shouldn't matter that they technically consented to having sex at all.
Yes, get your goddamn stiletto off my ball.
That should be, okay, she's not, she's screaming in pain.
Oh,
she's
she.
uncomfortable. Let's stop. But there's just so much emphasis on, well, she said yes, she agreed to it. And consent is an ongoing thing. It's constantly live. You need to constantly, or you should be constantly checking if it's still there. And I'm not going to, for example, let these guys off the hook in that they don't know what consent looks like. They absolutely know what consent looks like. At the end of the day, if Dave Portnoy was confronted with a 6'4" guy who wanted to fuck him up the arse, he would quickly say no. And he knows what that looks like. He knows what being uncomfortable looks like. But they just rely on women being gaslit and told that, well, you consented, so you've got nothing to complain about. And in the video rebuttal that we'll talk about in a bit, that's all he really has to say. It was 100% consensual. He doesn't actually deny that he did any of the depraved acts that he's accused of. He never denies it. But he just says, well, it was consensual.
I hate how the phrase, well, she consented to it, is almost used as a form of victim blaming now.
Absolutely, because the other thing.
Well, you're trying to say he's a criminal. Literally, you're trying to be like, this dude is a criminal. He's a rapist, and he's like, yeah. The one thing that doesn't make me a criminal, I'd like to bring up in my defense, please.
Consent to literally anything, and that's what these guys are deliberately obscuring, right? They'll just say she consented. I'm like, did she literally consent to being choked and spit on, or she said I like rough sex and you took liberties, right?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, what are you supposed to do? It's a feeling out process.
When a woman thinks
this is one of the most cooked conversations,
she's probably thinking of like, that you're ripping off each other's clothes, maybe some like really hard pounding and stuff. She's not thinking of him like punching her in the face or being fucking strangled within an inch of her life, right?
Exactly. And that's why, like, if you're going to literally physically assault somebody during a sex act, it is still sexual assault, and you still, at minimum, need to ask explicitly for those behaviors.
And I'll just say as well that I'm not sure if even women can give informed consent because, from personal experience, a lot of, women and even men, they underestimate just how strong they are. So you might be consenting to being, I don't know, for example...
spanked or something.
Yeah, exactly. But they do it with such force, it can literally take your breath away. And then you're literally there thinking, oh shit, this guy is super, super strong. Especially liberal feminists that like to believe that men and women are physically the same. We're absolutely not. Do not underestimate the strength of a man, especially...
Yeah, you got to kind of know what you're doing
upper
there.
Body strength, because it can literally knock you... It can literally take your breath away as well.
It can literally kill you.
With that in mind, can they really truly consent if they're not even aware of how strong this guy is? Because it isn't like they say, okay, you can tap me on the ass a little bit. These guys just go 100%.
I mean, generally, you do it and they go, okay, that was too hard. And you go, okay, sorry.
And the woman's not expecting it as well. So with that in mind, I don't really think anyone can... It isn't informed consent if you don't fully know what you're going into.
It really angers me that quote-unquote sex-positive culture has become like a veneer of respectability to perpetuate rape culture. Like what they call sex positivity is not even sex positivity, it's rape positivity.
I mean, it's just equality. As women want to be equal, so then we need them to be equal in everywhere.
Exactly.
It's fine if we admit that they're not.
It's bad enough coming from these type of like obviously low barrel degenerate scrotes, but I think they're part of the...
What was that term right there? Sorry, we're going to have to just back it up just a second.
Angers me that quote-unquote sex-positive culture has become like
Did I ever say low-barrel degenerate scrotes?
A veneer of respectability to perpetuate rape culture. Like what they call sex positivity is not even sex positivity, it's rape positivity.
Exactly. And it's bad enough coming from these type of like obviously low-barrel degenerate scrotes, but I think they're part...
Low barrel degenerate scrotes. Okay, that is what I thought.
The groundswell of support that FDS has enjoyed, because there's a lot of women who are really, really getting tired of this narrative being also pushed by women who purport to be feminist thought leaders, because it gives them, it's like some of the stuff that they've published as quote unquote feminist has been very irresponsible, and the way that they describe these kinds of ideas and the way that they describe these acts. And quite frankly, I think some of these women are probably recovering from abuse or using it to self-abuse themselves. So they've been giving a platform to disseminate these ideas without context, without examination of the men who are into kink. And even now, when we say that like men who are into BDSM are probably trash, like they deliberately ignore the fact that we talk about the men in this scenario and the motivations behind it, and then say we're being sex negative and that we don't think women can make their own choices. And we're not the only people who've been dragged. And it's not been like one magazine or one set of people who's dragged us for this. It's like between Vice or The Verge or Jezebel, etc. They've all come out with the same narrative that us critiquing the entire BDSM normalization and the culture around that is a problem. And they're swinging back at us like we don't think women can make choices. We think women can make choices, but this is just a poor one for all of the reasons we're describing.
Maybe they're poor choices.
It's another form of like low-key victim blaming, where it's like we're talking about men being predatory, and they turn it back on the women and say, oh, so you're saying women can't make any choices for themselves? Are you telling me women shouldn't have any agency? It's just Darvo. They're just flipping the script in like the most misogynistic way possible.
I just think they're pygmies. Here's the problem. Pygmies are a fucking problem.
I hate pygmies so much.
Like, why? This is like my 50th rant probably this year. On fucking pygmies and why. So speaking of like a bunch of the Barstool employees, like the girls from Chicks in the Office and some other podcast about like smoking or whatever, they went on Twitter to like, oh, I have known Dave for a year now and I'm sure of his character, et cetera, et cetera. It's like, first of all, no, you don't. You've known the man barely a year. And then there's also like reports of these same girls of Dave telling them like, you're not fuckable enough or you're not hot enough to their face.
That's so sad. Oh my God.
Most of these girls are like in their late teens or early 20s. And he disrespects the shit out of them to their face. And yet they still felt the need to get on Twitter and defend this man. And like, for what, sis? You're going to torpedo your career anywhere outside of this ecosystem. Everyone thinks you're a dingbat now. Like, you better for the rest of your life hope these like very fickle, antagonistic bros,
these girls probably still all work.
Want to keep supporting your career and your podcast because nobody else is.
I actually cannot fathom having so little self-respect that some creepy old man would tell me to my face like, oh, you're 26, you're too old and not fuckable, and then turning around and defending that guy when he goes after much, much younger women. Like, I actually cannot fathom.
And he said it on video and they cried. And I was like, girl, where's your self-respect?
Yeah, I actually don't know what it's like to hate myself that much. Completely unfathomable to me. Like, I don't get it.
So it's like they're already knee-jerk defending this guy who won't defend them when it comes down to it. Secondly, like, they're not going to get that much out of Barstool. 3, they probably are torpedoing their career outside of Barstool. So they're taking all this risk to die in a sword for a man who wouldn't piss on them if they were on fire.
I want to continue with this article because it actually gets worse.
So she says, but wait, there's more.
Very preyed upon. Soon after Allison's encounter with Portnoy, 2 photos, a selfie Allison had taken with Portnoy and a photo her friend took of her leaving his house, began to circulate the island. Both were posted on private Snapchats by Allison's friend, but were then screenshotted and shared widely. Before long, it felt as though the entire island knew what had transpired between Allison.
But your fucking friend did that.
Portnoy. Allison, who had depression, said she felt stressed and overwhelmed following her sexual encounter with Portnoy and the subsequent attention it got. Quote, I guess it was kind of my breaking point, Allison said. 3 nights after having sex with Portnoy, Allison was suicidal and was hospitalized. Where she was in the hospital, her mother began going through her phone trying to understand what had happened. After finding Portnoy's messages, Allison's mother called the Nantucket Police Department. Yes! Allison's mom, if you're out there listening, I want you to know you're a queen.
She's not.
Hell yeah.
Allison's mom does not listen to this trash. Come on, get over yourself.
So she told the police, go.
She's more likely watching this. She's more likely watching this live than listening to that.
Put somebody outside his door because you're going to see every day there's some girl being dropped off. Insider viewed police departments confirming this call. Her mother wanted to pursue some sort of legal action against Portnoy, but Allison refused. Girl, why?
Go why?
She says, I knew he would drag me through the mud. That's so sad. And again, women know that if they speak out against him, that he's going to destroy them. And so,
look, again, if something truly criminal happened, then you should press charges, and it probably does suck to have to go through the process. But this
have the privilege of anonymity. I feel like it is our duty and our responsibility to drag this fucking guy because other women are too scared to do so.
We're feminist mercenaries in this bitch.
Yeah. So the article goes on. He talks about how he's so uncancelable. It says in 2016, Erica Nardini beat out 74 men to become Barstool's new CEO, and she brought with her an influx of high-level female executives. The company began to branch out in its content as well, launching 5 female lifestyle podcasts, including Chicks in the Office, Call Her Daddy, and Nardini's own Token CEO. Wow, so she even calls herself a token CEO, like a token female CEO.
Yeah, I mean, if she's responsible for unleashing Call Her Daddy onto the world, and Call Her Daddy's content is super problematic. And if you look at some of the Reddit responses to this story, there was somebody on one of the Call Her Daddy subreddits that literally likens Alex Cooper to Ghislaine Maxwell, saying that she advocates for women being treated like holes and just say, oh, you're just a hole, or that you should tell guys to choke.
Damn, that's hot.
Choke you. And how to act.
That's what JJ Lieberman's favorite thing is just when
the guy turned on.
That's what he calls them, holes.
But then the subreddit
it's disgusting.
Users are calling her out by saying this is all dangerous and toxic, irresponsible to be encouraging men to sexually abuse these women. There's like a class difference between the way that women that have privilege are treated versus like working class women. And I kind of said this a little bit before about like, you're not going to be able to leverage situations like this to your benefit, especially if you're not already famous or already have a following. A lot of girls think like, oh, if I go around someone like Dave or a rich and powerful man, that it's going to somehow rub off on them. They're going to be able to have influence, but more than likely you're just going to get sexually abused and talk shit about and destroyed. And that's on purpose, by the way. I think a lot of girls see like the Kim Kardashian sugar baby lifestyle on Instagram and they get the impression that they're just one connection with a rich guy away from that. But the problem is like really and truly, even if you're trying to like quote unquote get at a rich guy, you're better off trying to build your own brand as like an Instagram influencer.
Yeah, are you?
Or the YouTube influencer or someone who actually has some kind of social leverage and an audience than trying to put yourself in a situation where this man has all the money.
I mean, what they're not factoring in is like women like this are a dime a dozen. This isn't you're not some rarefied
all
air.
the power, and he controls the entire narrative, right? Because there's nothing these women can do. All they had to do, all their entire recourse was going and making an anonymous interview with the journalists at Insider to get their story out there, because they're, you know, from the public perspective, nobodies. It's all his word against yours, and you're nobody. So I really want to caution people. And I'm kind of saying this because I know there's just a lot of girls, and no matter what we say, they're going to be like,
all right, we're coming down to the home stretch. 25 more likes. I'll give away one more channel membership. Let's see.
I want to marry a rich guy, or I want to do this, whatever. Just understand, like, you're way better off getting enough clout and influence and money yourself so you can avoid guys like Portnoy altogether.
Yo, I can't believe some of you are still listening to this shit, by the way. I don't know what I'm doing.
And then
here,
also so that you have the
y'all are massive
support and the backing when you do encounter assholes like this to protect your reputation and not get destroyed by someone like him, either legally, mentally, emotionally, or physically.
What you said there is confirmed by the last story in this article. And this is the last bit. This is the last few paragraphs. But this last woman that he talked to in this article, inside article reads, the Instagram influencer Ava Louise recalls messaging with Portnoy in August 2017. At the time, she just turned 19 and he was 40. Again, he's got a type, barely legal teenagers. I never reach out, he texted her in August 2017 in messages viewed by Insider. I noticed you 2 weeks and was interested. Later, he wrote, I thought about you a bunch last night, not at all wholesome all the time. She responds, I want to be famous so bad, I'd be so good at it. I'm a good start then, he replies. Though she responded willingly at the time, Louise said she'd come to see an inherent problem
willingly at the time
with a man in power knowing he could take advantage of a younger girl. It's predatory.
You were taking advantage of him. You wanted to be famous, and you were like, oh, I can use this guy to be famous.
She says, Louise said, it's not just a problem with David Portnoy. It's every man that has followers or status of any sort. It's kind of terrifying in a way. She says her parents were really freaked out by it when they found out she was thinking of meeting up with him and threatened to stop paying for her college if she followed through. Good.
Yeah. Base parents.
Thank God for her parents. So she says, today she's grateful for their intervention. Quote, I probably would have let Dave Portnoy
Yeah, good parenting is important.
do whatever the hell he wanted to me, she told Insider. Because I'm like, oh my God, it's Dave Portnoy. I'm glad I didn't have that experience. A couple of things with that. First of all, yeah, like these men are exploiting women's desire to become famous for their own sexual gain. And
it's not going to work.
It's not going to work. That's
not going to work.
Like, yeah, like you're not going to get famous.
You're not. Like, and it's specifically, this is like, I try to kind of.
Well, I mean, his current girlfriend, I don't know, what's her name? Sophia or something? I don't know what her name is, but people know her. I bet she's got six figures followers. I'm sure she's doing okay. I bet she could leave Portnoy and
explained it before, but this is a specific class issue thing. Like, you're not gonna be able to Kim Kardashian your way to fame the way she is. Kim Kardashian came from a connected family who was already wealthy. Mother was married to an Olympic athlete. Her father was a criminal trial lawyer for the trial of the century. People like Paris Hilton, people in this kind of clout where they become famous for like being famous and having sex tapes and doing the sugar baby thing, they all the time already come from connection. So if you want to go this route, meaning you want to be like a sexy Instagram influencer, you are better off doing the actual work to build your brand on your own, because they can't take that from you, right? And also, when a guy tries to pull some bullshit like this, you don't have his entire army of online psychopaths stalking and harassing you, because you have some people there to defend your position, right? And you also hopefully have the monetary compensation to do a countersuit if they try to come after you. So I just want to be like really careful for like the clout chasers out there. Everything that girl's friends did to her in that second story where they were like trying to DM Dave Portnoy and use their 19-year-old friend as bait. First of all, that's so shit. That's so shit. Your friends hate you. Like, they don't, like, they want to get in that party so bad, and they couldn't get him to pay attention to them because they're too old at 22 apparently. But that's a pick me friend. You honestly don't want them in your life period, because like the 19-year-old girl, she's the one that has to live with that.
I mean, they do make a point that these friends did fuck her over,
now, right? She was the only one that was put there.
But guys just call that taking one for the team.
Everyone pressured her to go, and she got nothing out of it. So if you're going to do like the clout chasing route and you want to be around these rich and famous guys, like, you got to start by like, don't, like, straight up just don't fuck them, because like if you have sex with them, like, you've already tanked your brand. You're better off like brick by brick trying to do the hard work to build your following and build your own influence. And I mean this sincerely, ladies. It's not me like, I want to say this because I feel like people try to spin it like, oh, it's not okay to be sexy, or it's not okay to be a hot girl or whatever. If
take it from me, it is okay to be sexy.
you want to be a Instagram baddie, like, seriously do all that shit if you wanted to, but just understand, like, you're up against an institution when you're nobody and you try to go up against someone like that. You're just at a huge disadvantage, and fucking up's not going to make you famous faster. You will still have to go back on your Instagram and do all the work you would have had before you suck this old disgusting man's dick. So you've gained nothing. Okay.
Not true.
That's Rose Rage.
That's Ro giving a pep talk to young women.
Rose Rage. That's a good name for a segment. I hope they.
We should do like a Ro Rants section. I would.
Rage. Is it like Road Rage? Rose. Oh,
Rose Rant. Yeah.
Rose Rant.
Rose Rant.
Like a little. We'll work.
Are they dropping the ball so hard on this right now? You said it. Rose Rage. Rose Rants.
I wanted to have a conversation more generally about rich old men need to have more sexual self-discipline. I know that
no, they don't.
A lot of men seem to have this idea that one of the privileges or advantages or benefits of becoming wealthy is that they can have sex however they want with, any number of like beautiful young women. Or if you go throughout history, you see this in most civilizations, like the king or the sultan. Or
it's crazy. Like it's like a law that exists throughout all civilizations and time, and just it's just one of those laws.
Shah or whatever often has a harem of women or a bunch of mistresses. Men are accustomed to the notion that being rich and powerful means that they're entitled to have sex with many beautiful young women, including
they're not entitled to, but that's what happens.
Fucked up predatory shit, like the Marquis de Sade, for example. I am of the view now that women have power and these men are. Now that we have the ability to make these men face consequences, rich, powerful men need to understand that the more rich and the more powerful they are doesn't make them more entitled to sex with beautiful young women. It actually just puts a bigger target on their back. Guys say, oh, these women are just lying about this so that they can get clout. And it's like, yeah, well, that's what happens.
It's so funny to me to watch all of these men suddenly be able to articulate a bunch of nuances and coercion and victim blaming when they feel like the advantage might not be on their side. Interesting that suddenly they understand the language of rape culture.
Yeah. So I'm of the view, I actually think that men being afraid of, quote, false, again, massive air quotes, false rape accusations. I think it's a good thing that men.
There's no such thing as a false rape accusation against a man. That's just a fact.
They're afraid of false rape accusations. I think that it's a good deterrent from engaging in coercion or violence. I think men need to be more afraid of false rape accusations. Again, if you don't want people to think you're a rapist, then don't act like a rapist. Don't target 19-year-old girls.
I wonder who gets most caught up in false rape accusations. Would it be maybe minorities? Are you fine with that?
Don't isolate them at your house. Mm-hmm. Don't fucking choke them.
Yeah.
Fucked up, ladies.
Hit them and spit in their mouth.
Go off, Lilith.
Thank you. Again, even though all this stuff was supposedly consensual, all of these are the patterns of behavior of a predatory, rapey man, right? So if you don't want to be called or labeled a rapist...
This is all you need to know is if you ever put women like this in charge, they become absolute totalitarians. This type of mindset is where you lead to like a public beheadings.
Don't do the things that rapists do.
Yes, exactly.
Yes!
Exactly.
Tell the people the truth.
Men have created this narrative where it's women's responsibility not to get raped. I would like to argue that I actually think it's men's responsibility not to get accused.
Yeah, but also you girls said partially what Andrew Tate said, which is that women have to take some responsibility because of that's just how it is.
Word of advice for any gentleman listening in. If you don't want women to accuse you of rape, then don't subject women to violent, degrading, abusive, horrifying sex.
But sometimes they're asking for it.
Okay.
And honestly, if a man does any of this shit, if a predatory rich old man with a reputation for preying on women, like say a woman came up to and said that Harvey Weinstein, sexually assaulted her.
They did.
I'd be like,
but okay, same thing again with Harvey Weinstein. He could have stopped meeting with
Weinstein. Come on,
actresses in their in his hotel room after the first rape accusations. After that, I think I would, ask them to visit me in a public office building. But no, right? He keeps.
I mean, he was raping them,
setting up that specific situation because he's a sexual predator. So he clearly didn't actually fear any consequences.
I want to point out also that a lot of men will defend Dave Portnoy because they aspire to be like him one day. Again, even though these men are poor and themselves will never be able to enjoy the privileges of wealthy men, they still like to project themselves into his shoes or they like to think of themselves as, temporarily embarrassed millionaires, where one day if they ever become rich and famous, they want to have the privilege of being able to rape, innocent young girls and not face any consequences for it. And I think it's actually, so, for me to say, oh, if you're a rich man, you should be careful about who you sleep with and under which circumstances and not do things that could be construed as rape, even if it's supposedly consensual. A lot of guys get mad at that statement because they think that they are entitled to do that when they become wealthy. To them, the entire purpose of becoming wealthy is so that they can do those things.
Nobody's becoming wealthy for that
And so when you tell them,
reason.
oh, if you're wealthy, you shouldn't do those things as a matter of self-protection, they're like, but I want to rape women. That's the whole point of me becoming wealthy, right? They think that that's what comes with the territory, right? And I'm like, okay, no. I think that men like that deserve to be held accountable for it.
I have to say, I am living for the fact that this entire article might actually be the result of a business insider trying to tank the stock in Dave Portnoy's company, because I am fine with outing sexual predators for profit.
Make an example of him. Honestly, like, I think it's even better if he loses his business, because that's going to send a message to everyone around him, all the other shitty, rich, predatory Scrotes, that we are fucking coming for you, okay?
Lovely.
All of that rapey shit you've been,
Yes.
not just David Portnoy, but all the other rich, wealthy men who think that they're hot shit, who probably raped a girl 20, 30 years ago. I want you to know that we are fucking coming for you.
But what I like about this idea is, like, what if we actually, as a manner of business, started to make it normalized that if your CEO or anybody in your C-suite is out here sexually assaulting people or sexually preying on people, you could be outed and that could tank your stock. That actually is a perfect...
Yeah, I don't know if that worked. I think the market just went down anyways. It was just coincidental, but the stock is down, I think.
System
40% in the last year.
Leverage. So I'm totally 100% okay with the fact that Business Insider did this, even if it comes out to be true that this was like a hit piece. Because anyway, again, there's nothing in here
fraud.
that, like, when he did his rebuttal online, he doesn't even explicitly refute any of the things. He doesn't deny any of this shit.
He doesn't deny it. He just hides behind that it was
because
consensual.
It's not illegal.
Shit.
Yes.
He doesn't deny any of it. He admits it, that we messaged, that, you know, that I knew her. The idiot
that would be shady if he was denying.
Tried to say I never met her. Like, he doesn't even try and do like a Prince Andrew defense where I didn't know her. He admits it.
Yeah, he's a dumbass.
He thinks he's entitled to be that way. I think that David Portnoy being crucified, I think, is like the
13 more likes. We have about
perfect example for all the other shitty rich Scrotes that
the
they will face consequences for their predatory behavior.
Yeah, we'll tank your company, and I don't feel any bad about it.
Yeah, we'll tank your company.
And people who are innocent don't spend 10 minutes, you know, in a rebuttal video, and they don't try and go after, was it the CEO of like Business Insider, to try and bring them down. This isn't like a, you know, you've defamed me sort of thing. If it was defamation, he would have said, I'm going to get you for defamation. He didn't say anything like that.
Well, it was with that and worse. It was trying to fuck with his money and defamation.
It's not defamation if it's true.
It's true. It's not defamation, and that's what his idiot followers kept saying. Like, you might want to get rid of that journalist because, you know, you could be named in a defamation suit. He's not going to sue for defamation because he will lose badly, and it will probably come out that the claims are substantiated.
It's probably be more if they did the discovery process. It'd probably even been worse than what's been described here.
It'll be more. There'll be even more because
well, guess what? It's a year later.
And if you look at this article, to be fair to the journalist, she researched it for 8 months. Now, like Portnoy and his idiotic cronies are saying, well, that's evidence it's a hit piece. I was like, well, no, if it's a good article, you do need to research it. It takes time to research these articles. If she's done it for 8 months, it shows that she's at least done in-depth research. Exactly, good journalism. She's researched her sources and she's put it together.
It's a bad thing that someone spent 8 months
9
on
more
an article.
likes.
I know, because with Barstool Sports, it's like low quality content. So each article or whatever they make probably has like tops like a couple of hours of work put into it. So the idea of spending months on a certain project is probably inconceivable for him and his low effort fucking content that he puts out. But it's not a bad thing that it was well researched for 8 months. That's actually more proof that it's correct.
That's actually
but again,
a good thing.
That has nothing to do with it. They're saying it's consensual. Everybody's saying it's consensual.
Some of the biggest stories, for example, look at the Theranos scandals. These stories take time to uncover. It doesn't...
Nobody bring up Sam Bankman-Fried to me.
It isn't just, but then again, you know, if she had, for example, I mean, like FDS, like we're not a stranger to hit pieces from like Vice and the like, but if she had, say, taken a month to do it, they would be saying, well, she didn't do her research properly. So they're not concerned about the length of time it took. Dave Portnoy is just freaking out because it is a damning article. That's why he's freaking out.
As a society, we need to flip the script on rapists. I'm at the point where it's like,
we do.
If a so-called false rape accusation comes out, my brain just goes, you know, what did you do to make her accuse you of rape? Why were you alone together? Why were you choking her? Why were you spitting in her mouth? Why were you isolating her? You should have known better. It's your fault for putting yourself in this situation. And so I think if men don't want to be, again, air quotes, falsely accused of rape, then they shouldn't put themselves in situations where they could be falsely accused of rape.
That is fucked up that you even say that out loud.
It's going to make their penis mad because they want to rape.
No.
You know, and they don't want to face any consequences for it.
Guys do not want to rape.
But yeah, I feel zero sympathy for them. These men need to be afraid of quote unquote false rape accusations.
And you know you fucked up when even the subreddit is calling you out on your bullshit. Imagine actually being so degenerate that Redditor tier men can't defend you. He's even being called out on the Barstool subreddit. It's being suggested to him repeatedly that his behavior for a middle-aged man, especially a middle-aged man of great wealth, is at best irresponsible, if not downright criminal. Yeah, so ditto to what you just said, Lilith. Even the shitty dudes on Reddit can't defend this.
I keep seeing this narrative that false rape accusations weaken the legitimacy of real rape accusations, and I just think that's blatantly untrue. Even if 100% of rape accusations were correct, men would still accuse women of lying because, first of all, they're rapists. They don't want to face consequences for their actions, and also because of misogyny. You know, the reason why men accuse women of lying when they report rape isn't because other women have lied about it in the past. It's because they don't want to face consequences of their actions.
All right, so that's our show. Please check out our Patreon,
patreon.com/low value mail. Don't check out their Patreon. All right, we banged out 4 episodes technically. That was fucked up that she doesn't care about. Not that I'm surprised at all that they don't care about the fake rape accusations, but that's been the show, the stream, all that stuff. If you enjoyed it, shout out to the new people who won memberships. By the way, I don't pick the memberships. YouTube automatically picks them. And even though we didn't hit 200, we got 197. Close enough, but I don't pick them. I can't decide who gets them. So just keep chatting. I think that's how they give them out, as people who are like active in the chats. Thank you for joining the stream. Tomorrow night, we have a new episode of Low Value Mail at 9 o'clock, as always. And then Wednesday, we have a new episode of The Bathhouse. Last week was the funniest episode by far of The Bathhouse. It honestly killed me. It was so funny with a bunch of the Irish boys and a bunch of other comics. But anyways, we'll be back Wednesday, tomorrow, Tuesday. Support the show, patreon.com/lowvaluemail. Or you can find me on Locals, lowvaluemail.locals.com if that's your thing. Or here. Okay, that's been it. And I have a new outro. I'm unveiling the official outro of everybody who supports the show. Is going to be in the credits with music by our boy Chad, Mr. Chad. It's been the show. See some of you tomorrow. See some of you Wednesday. I'll see y'all soon. Have a good night. All my shit heroic. Empathic abilities, yeah, my face be also stoic. Bleep, blow up, nigga, that just means I'm working. They see me as a leader, so that's why I'm Captain Kirkin. These tracks from the stars, that much is for certain. You can fit this hit if you up or if you hurting. I'm raising my stock, not talking my feet in some Birkin. Number Johnny 5, got a fucking short circuit. Bring the track to life when I spit phenomenal. When I hit, she feel that shit in her abdominals. These rappers make me laugh like comic view, they comically. You know I got a ball out, I hit the track running just like Sonic do. They don't wanna turn on my light switch. Yeah, they was trying to get me on my hype shit. Yeah, they don't wanna turn on my light switch. Yeah, and they tried to down me up some KO type shit. Yeah, they don't wanna turn on my light switch. Yeah, now we pulling up fresh on some flight shit. Ha. They don't wanna turn on my light switch. Yeah, they don't wanna turn on my light switch. They don't wanna turn on my light switch. Yeah, they was trying to get me on my hype shit. Yeah, they don't wanna turn on my light switch. Yeah, and they tried to down me up some KO type shit. Yeah, they don't wanna turn on my light switch. Yeah.